Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Good morning. Today is Friday, October 22nd, 2021. We're here with the Budget Recommendations Committee. And today we're going to be discussing the general government aspects of the FY 2022 budget. We'll begin by having introductions. I'm Bob Kelly, the chair of the committee and chair of the Water and Sewer Subcommittee. To my left, Christine.
Chris Suter, Cullen Way. That's in Exeter. And I'm on.
I don't have to kick you off the committee.
I moved here just to be on the committee. And I'm a Parks and Rec, Library, and Human Services.
Morning, everybody. Corey Stevens, Jade Hill Ave. I'm on the DPW subcommittee.
Doreen Chester, Finance Director, Webster Ave.
Kathy Corson, 3 Folsom Street, Fire and Police.
Laura Zagopoulos, Town Accountant.
Russ Dean, Town Manager.
Janet Whitten, Deputy Assessor.
Anthony Zwan, 7 Marlborough Street. I'm serving on the Water and Sewer Subcommittee.
Chris Zigmont, Crestview Drive, and I'm on Human Services, Parks and Rec and Library.
Nancy Belanger, Mill Street, and I'm the chair of the General Government Subcommittee.
Anna Grazier, General Government Subcommittee, Nancy's wingwoman.
And owner of Anna's Fine Chocolates.
Yes, yummy.
And with us as well are Select Woman Julie Gilman, Assistant Town Manager Melissa Roy, and Assistant to the Town Manager Pam McElroy. Thank you for joining us. I will turn the meeting over forthwith to Nancy Belanger, the chair of the General Government Subcommittee, who with Anna Grazier have done yeoman's work, actually before we were even, I think, organized here in September. You guys have done a great job in putting everything together. The reports look great.
Thank you.
And why don't you lead us into the day? Thanks, Nancy.
So the first point of business that I want to take care of is Anna and I approving the meeting minutes for October 4th and October 6th, 2021, for our subcommittee meetings.
Approved.
The whole committee doesn't, because you guys weren't there, but I just wanted to take care of that.
Just give them to Pam when you can.
All set, already turned in. Okay, so we're going to start with, I'm going to have Russ introduce Janet, because Janet's going to give us the rundown of the tax status, however you want to put that.
Valuation.
Yes, thank you.
So I'll introduce Janet. Janet Witten is our deputy assessor, and she's going to go through the latest valuation updates and where things stand on the town valuation.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hi, Jen.
Hi. So for 2021, we have increased the value of the town by $40 million. It's about 1.8% higher than it was last year. 71 million is now this year retained for the TIF. Every year it changes, it goes up hopefully, and that's what it is for this year. That tax dollars will all go towards the TIF bond.
Do you mind if I ask, like, what line, is there lines that we can
Yeah,
look at?
that is way down the bottom. It says net taxable value, and then above it, it says TIF.
Okay. Okay, so there's your, that's the 70.
Oh, and there's the 40 million on the bottom right there?
Yes, yep.
Does that mean there's 71 million presently to pay off debt related to TIF, or not necessarily? It does.
Not dollars, that's value.
the value.
Value worth,
Right,
yes.
that's
sorry.
valuation. So you multiply that by the tax rate to
Right.
get the dollars associated with it.
And that goes towards the bond.
I don't know what else anybody wants to know. The residential has gone up because of all the new condos and subdivisions. Utilities change every year. That's based on the distribution and transmission. Half of it comes from the state, half of it comes from the town. And exemptions have changed a little bit. Solar exemptions, we have never tracked them before. This is the first year for the solar exemption, so it looks like an extraordinary amount, but we've never even valued them, so it really hasn't changed anything.
Is that something that's possible to go backwards and look and calculate, or it's not really trackable?
We didn't assess them.
Okay.
So there's no value change.
Okay.
We've been tracking the solars, but we haven't been valuing them. So this is the first year that we've thought we've gotten them all, so that we were able to actually go through and do the exemption to find out how much value we're losing by having that exemption.
Or gaining.
Yep.
I have a quick question. So the residential went up like 3%, and then it says mobile homes 3%. Is that because the value of mobile homes went up, or more?
More mobile homes.
More of them?
Yeah, well, some of the old ones have been taken out and the new ones put in, so the value of them have increased. We're still only at about 65% of value for current market value of mobile homes. Yeah.
Is that due to the condition of the majority of them?
It's due to the new, people are buying them, outrageous amount, in my opinion, outrageous amounts because it's affordable.
Yeah.
Where other things in town are not affordable anymore. With this new.
I just wanted to weigh in, does everybody understand that basically the mobile homes are 65% of market? Or the ratio of valuations way under 100% at this point. So normally what you would do in that case is do a sort of a targeted revaluation and bring those properties up to closer to 100%, which is something that we've talked about doing in the near future.
Yeah. Condos are pretty low also. They're going for a lot more than they're assessed for also.
Our single-family homes, what do you find with those? I know it's hard. because
They're probably at about 85% still.
5%?
Sorry, who's at 85%?
Residential properties, single-family homes.
Are at 85%?
And condos
They might be a little lower, but they're not as bad as
the mobile homes.
and the condominiums, yeah.
And you said condos are at what percentage roughly?
I can't remember, but they're,
Somewhere in between?
yeah. I'll say 80.
Ton had something.
It was actually that, thank you.
So aren't we right now, as the town going around and we're checking in with different properties, stuff on the house to make sure that.
Yeah, we're doing cyclicals,
Yeah.
but we still have to keep them at the same value as 2019.
Right.
Only thing that will change is if we find any errors, we will
Gotcha.
correct them. So if you're put on a deck and we didn't know it, we'll put
Right.
that on.
Right. So then, as far as back to the mobile home and the condo, like, wouldn't that be an area pretty soon we'd want to go and look at to bring them up, or is that?
We have to go, first we have to go through Russ to make sure that
Right.
he wants us to do it. And then we have to go to the state and see if we can just do the target of the
Gotcha.
mobile homes and the condos.
Yeah, everything has to be done in accordance with state standards on assessing, so we would look at that.
Aren't those easier to evaluate than a single-family home as far as overall undervalue? Because there are so many things that are similar where a single-family home is not similar, so to do a blank, say 85%, the single-family homes are 85% of value, I think, it's easier to say, oh yeah, we know that the mobile homes are 65% of value because we have so many comparisons where single-family homes are so many different things.
There's a lot of mobile homes that are selling.
Yeah.
What we're finding is people are renovating them and not getting building permits.
Yeah.
So we don't know that they've been renovated until they sell.
Right.
Tom, did you have something else?
Just one of those stating the obvious things. When a mobile home gets sold for more than you and I could imagine, it gets taxed on that amount on subsequent years, does it not?
No, we
taxed on
can't
the
just
assessed
change
value.
them.
Not unless you live in
Oh, the
California.
sale price does not change the assessed value?
No.
No.
Oh.
Nothing does.
Wow.
Now, the assessed value can change over time, but
Right.
otherwise you'd be whipsawing this way and that way,
Yeah.
depending what the market does. So it has to be
So
on.
you really, so that makes it fairly incumbent upon the town to do a reassessment. And the longer you wait, the more painful that gets.
Absolutely.
Right.
Right, and every 5 years is the target. That's where we have to be equitable and proportional. So
And where are we at?
That's our minimum standard,
19, we did it.
Oh, we did it in 19.
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So mobile homes have fallen behind fairly rapidly, is what
Yes.
we're saying, yeah.
But it's not like we're behind by a tremendous amount of time then. It's not.
Well,
we haven't done our.
the value of the mobile homes is on the lower end.
It's just that the value has gone up.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just a market.
Right.
Yeah, that's a
Which
market
could
thing.
change
We
tomorrow.
can change the value if we find that they have renovated, we can change the value, but we can't just arbitrarily just change all the values because,
Yeah. So we're really talking about the market. We're not talking about the length of time that it's been since we've done a reassessment or anything
Right.
like that. That's, so.
Corey?
I wanted to just change topics for one moment over to the TIF, Russ. Good point on those aren't dollars, that's value.
Right.
And are we talking about using the town's tax rate, not the overall tax rate when we talk about?
No, the way, The way the TIF works is that you take the overall value of the TIF and multiply it by the tax rate of the town in total.
School,
right.
Everything, yep.
The three components, and that generates a number of dollars that then go into the TIF fund.
Right.
And those are the dollars that are used to pay off what Janet referred to, the TIF bond that we have out there. So whatever we generate in TIF dollars, we're able to apply it against the fund. And I think we've made 3 debt payments on the TIF bond. Out of 10, it's a 10-year bond. So if we raise over $1 million in TIF dollars, which it looks like we could do this year, then we can prepay the bond that is out there. So we could make an additional payment if we have enough money to do it.
Ray Farm has been a big contributor to that. All those condos out there.
Right.
Those are.
Oh, great.
Janet, you and I talked last year about the adjusting the average home. It used to be in our analysis $275,000, which was an amalgamation of the mobile homes, the condos, and the residential. And you had explained residential is actually up over 400, condos in the middle, blah, blah, blah. So now we're at around a 300. Has that changed in the last, say, 6 months? Has that average changed?
I haven't done a report. I haven't looked to see, but I would imagine. I mean, I just, when I see the sales come through, things just keep going up.
Yeah. Could you just make a note and maybe just shoot me a quick email on what, if that number has changed appreciably? If it's, less than 5%, 310 or whatever, but I'd like to know if it's like inching up towards 350 just for our calculations and presentation to the taxpayers.
This is a question for Russ, I think, and it's been asked in different ways many times, probably mostly by me. And we batted around at previous meetings the tax rate of a given town and comparing it from one town to another. And we batted around valuations of home and valuations of property, right? But we here understand that it's difficult to compare one town to another because you're talking about valuations in one town versus valuations in another town and tax rates in one town versus tax rate in another town, right? But at the end of the day, it's the amount of money that a person pays out in a year in taxes, right? I hope I'm articulating that right. Right, so I compare what I pay, I compare year for year in terms of the actual dollars that I pay out. I don't worry about what the tax rate was 5 years ago versus what it is now. I look and see, okay, did I pay whatever, $8,000 last year and $9,000 this year? Is there a measure, is there a way to multiply those to come up with some kind of a ratio? Or does anybody do that exercise of making a ratio of valuation and money paid out? Is there an intelligent way to do that, to compare it? Or do you understand what I'm saying?
Maybe.
I'm not asking anybody to do it. I'm just asking, is there such a measure?
Obviously, the tax rate is a function of the valuation and the dollars that are to be raised through the tax system that we have. So, if you look at your bill year over year, you can see, I think you were right in that you look at your bill growth, as opposed to the overall tax rate, as opposed to the overall value of your property. So, we track it on a macro basis, but we don't get into the micro, that's each individual taxpayer. So
I think it speaks to the point that, if you compare, let's say, it's probably easiest to compare Rye and this town. If you have a town with really high property values, but it's got a nice low tax rate, that looks really great. But at the end of the day, that person is probably still paying more in taxes than I am paying in taxes, for an equivalent home. Would be my guess, but I'd love to.
Bad comparison, Rye, their taxes are low.
No, but that's my point. But that's my point. My point is you could have a really highly valued home and a low tax rate and still end up paying out more.
Well, now you see the importance of what we did with CIP a couple of weeks ago, where to boil it down to what people are actually paying. Because they don't, I know I don't. I've lived in town for over 35 years. I don't care what the tax rate is or anything.
Yeah.
What check am I writing every year? I think most people are the same way.
Exactly. But my point also in asking the question is that yes, that the actual dollar amount is important, but it's also important to understand how that compares to a taxpayer in another town.
Well, that's why we pay our town staff to pay attention.
I hope I'm articulating.
Well, and again, I like to say, and I said it the other night, that our share of the tax rate is under 24% of the total bill. So when people are looking at their bill, you really should do that percentage application of what the town services are providing, as opposed to the rest of the bill. So, and that's probably a good segue to say on Monday night, we actually sat at the select board meeting and talked about our fund balance and how we would apply a certain amount of money to lower the town share of the rate. And this year was $800,000, and that's in a relative sense about what we normally would do. And so we're projecting our rate to be around $577 per thousand. There may be some tweaks to that when we actually have the rate set by the state, but that's a 14-cent drop in the rate. So we're going to see a decrease in the town share of the rate again this year.
Great.
And don't know where the schools will be, but the town will be right around there.
And our assessed
Thank you, Janet, for that update. Nance, you want to go through the budget?
Assessed values are at 1%, like it says here.
Oh, okay.
No. And this is starts on page 8 of the budget, just for those.
It does. I just noticed though that the handout does not have, so bear with me a moment. So because you're here, we're just gonna keep you here for a moment longer.
Sorry, where are we starting now?
It's in our notebooks, on page 8.
Binder handout.
In the handout, there are no pages, so.
It's in the back half of.
In the back half, good point. Okay, so in assessing.
Page 8 of the handout.
So just for all of the departments that we have under our subcommittee, we have put that in the education part. So I'm just gonna get that out of the way. We can discuss it per department, but I'm gonna start with that. So Janet's budget, 55180 mapping. There's an increase, but that's due to the number of buildings that need to be added, a little bit behind part of the code, but still, it's still the number is the number.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Okay. And 55200 supplies, the subcommittee with Janet's input has recommended reducing that request from 750 to 500, just because of the as of August amount.
Where are you?
Assessing.
Assessing?
About 2/3 of the way back.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you just got it, I'm sorry, yeah. So
3 pages from the back.
Page 9 now.
Judy, 3 pages from the back of her report.
Of your notebook, your binder.
No. She's looking at
Section 2,
the
page
report.
8, in the binder, or she doesn't, okay. So in the report, it's not, I'm sorry.
There's 3 pages from the back in the report, on page 8 of the binder.
Next year we'll have to make sure that's
Don't worry about it.
numbered. It's just one of those things I like to take note of.
No, just what I need there. It's 11 grand, this is part of the.
Any discussion on the idea of reducing supplies by $250?
You want a motion?
No,
We're not discussing it?
we're discussing
As
it.
long as the department doesn't have a problem with it, I'm fine with it.
Nope, that was definitely done with her input.
I could not find the mapping in this list, in the.
55180.
Page 9, go all the way down,
Yeah.
the next page.
Just under, about halfway down.
Yeah, I see it, yeah.
Okay. All right, are we okay to go to the next one? 55224 postage, there's an increase in that line item. One, in part, is the 2 cents per piece of mail increase that the post office had this year. But also, there's a questionnaire that goes out to new owners. Because of COVID, people were not going door to door. We had a discussion about the pros and cons of different things on this. And one of them was putting door knockers on. But there were some, people who felt that there was a little concern. One of the stories was, great, I was gone for a week. Now, my neighborhood, people noticed that I'm not there because the door knocker is on my door. So I wanted to thank Janet again for looking into that to see the cost analysis of the door knocker versus mailing the questionnaire. But, and that would be it for assessing.
Just
Unless anyone has questions.
as an FYI, the supplies budget for assessing has been as high as over $1,000 in the past few years, just as an FYI. So they have in the past spent, maybe not this year or last year, but in the past they've spent that money. But I will certainly entertain modifications, Madam
I'm fine with that.
Madam Chair.
So I move to decrease 55200 supplies from $750 to $500.
Second?
Still assessing.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
That concludes assessing unless we want to get into anything with Doreen on
You're all done.
health insurance or anything like that. Are we going to do that?
Yeah, we do,
What
Okay.
about the supplies? Did you do that one?
Yeah, we just did it.
Yes, that's the one we just voted on.
What's the adjustment on health insurance, Doreen?
Well, overall, we only had a 1.6% increase, which is really great because we had budgeted for 7.5, so it came in a lot lower. So for assessing, the increase was 310. Dental insurance decreased 1.5%, so that's a minus 16, or the new number is 1034 for dental and 19,920 for health insurance.
So what's the new benefits total?
The new benefits total is $35,780.
So it's gone up.
Yes, because we had the reserve in general government. We didn't put the estimated 7.5 in assessing.
okay.
Yeah, they weren't in any of the departments. It was as a reserve until we got
Got
the
it. So what was that number again? I'm sorry, 35,700?
35,780.
Thank you. Okay, so with our change on supplies, the new assessing total is?
$237,808. Again, that's 237,808.
I'll entertain a motion for that budget, for assessing.
So moved?
Second?
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Janet.
Somebody go get the town manager. He's up next.
You don't have to look far.
I think he's busy on a call.
He's texting.
Okay.
He's texting the BRC here.
Text line is open.
All right, so town manager, that is, my notes. One,
This is on page 1 of the general budget.
it is.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Budget and
So, one of notations is that we wanted to make is on the DocuSign, and that is on the client contracts, line 55058. DocuSign was removed from the town manager's budget for this year, and then with some discussion, it is back in IT, which we can get into more when we do IT after lunch. I just wanted people to understand it's out of the the town manager's budget, but it is in the IT budget. And I think that's really what we had for our town manager's budget. We recommended it as is. Yeah. So, if there are any questions?
Any questions? I personally don't need to know all of the changes to the benefits total. Is that going to put anybody's
Sure, I'm fine.
panties in a twist if we don't get that update specifically?
Mine are smooth and relaxed.
Excellent.
Should we just do the benefit line, the total? Or
That's my question. That's my question. I
I don't
don't,
think we need to go dental, vision,
Right.
whatever, but if we grab just the total.
okay, we will do that. So the new benefits subtotal for town manager, Doreen, please.
$99,099, and that's 99099.
Okay, and the town manager total,
The new town manager total is $257,950. Again, that's 257,950.
So moved.
Second?
any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, thanks, Russ.
Thank you.
Okay.
Which can't leave.
And the next on the list is Rachel. Just one moment, please, in tax collection. Rachel couldn't be here today, but our tax collector is going to answer any questions that the subcommittee might need help with. So in, excuse me, one moment. We recommended this as is. We've noted a few things.
Just above assessing, we're assessing.
Those were brought up during one of our subcommittee our meetings this year. There was a huge savings this year on closing down the lockbox. And Rachel also, as part of her, goes to classes at $2,000 a year. She's got approximately 7 classes left to finish her BA. So, and her grade point average is really good. It's 3.94, I think, or something in her narrative. She's doing great. And that was it really for tax collection. Right, Anna? I'm sorry. Speak up if I...
No, that's it.
I get a flow going
Other than
sometimes.
noting that she's discontinued the use of
Flow is good.
lockbox in Manchester.
Flow is
which
good.
is a considerable savings.
We also had a retirement in that department as well earlier in the year, so there's some changes in the wages that reflect that.
That's right, we did.
Yes.
There were some benefits changes on the other side, but it's just to note that we had a retirement there.
So what is the new benefits total for tax collection?
The new benefits total is $52,480.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion on tax collection, page 8? The new tax collections total, Doreen?
The new tax collection total is $101,875. Again, that's $101,875.
I move that number.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Next is on page 2, Assistant Town Manager, Human Resource Director, Melissa Roy. So one of the topics that the subcommittee talked to Melissa about and the town manager was the HR assistant position going from part-time, which is currently 29 hours, to full-time, 40-hour position. This was an original ask. I believe it was 2017. I have that in my notes, but I had 2 years, so just letting people know. We do recommend this, that position going forward. So the numbers in the proposed budget show $3 3 months as part-time, and then 9 months as full-time. 55106 office equipment purchase. There's a need for a desktop scanner in HR. They can't really use the scanner, and the other department has used because of HIPAA concerns. 55224 is postage. They now have their own code, so they will be able to track their postage. 55246 reference materials. It's reduced by Melissa because the only thing that they really foresee needing in 2022 are the employment posters. 55270 software agreement. That is for a monthly subscription for eFax, which again is a HIPAA compliant need. And then 55371 reclassifications. That is they're currently for request pending, not that we really get too much into employment things, but that number has to be under HR because it cannot be put under each department because their requests right now, they're not either granted or denied.
Do the departments do their own reclassifications, or do you do them? You do them.
So they're under your budget, but then presumably if they're granted, they then fall to the other budget.
Right. Next year, they'll be put in the appropriate budget, so they'll get allotted. Right now, the process works that a supervisor or department head can request a reclassification, which is a review of position. There is a system, a process, a grading system. We go through it, we review it to see if it's a reasonable request, if we can meet it, and we go through a very specific process. If we deem that it is necessary and we have the appropriate budget, then we would then allot that money to that department to support that.
And just to add to that too, the select board would amend the classification plan, that we have a classification plan with grades for positions, and if a position changes grade, then it goes actually before the board to get for final approval.
Okay.
So they're really wages in that line there.
They are, yeah. And so it's previously been in the HR budget because although a department head can request it, it doesn't mean that it's guaranteed. So it's our ability to review when a position comes up as requested for review.
Tom?
So for those of us, and that's me, who hasn't been following the newspapers and watching Channel 22, exactly what is the staffing right now, and what is it proposed to be for human resources? So as I understand it, part of your duties are to be a director of this department, correct?
Yes.
And how much of that is yours?
For the director of the department? So are you talking about like a percentage of how much time I spend on HR? I would say I spend about 85 to 90% of my time on HR, and then about 10 to 15% assistant town manager duties. Is that what you're talking about?
Is that how your wages are reflected relative to this flow sheet?
No, my wages are 100% in HR. I don't have any of my wages in the town manager budget. Is that what you're asking?
I think that's what I'm asking. So this line item reflects your entire wages in the town?
Exactly, yes. My salary doesn't come from anywhere else. Yep.
And then you now have one part-time person in that department that is being asked to be moved up to full-time?
Yes, she's currently, or that position is currently at 29 hours, and we're asking for it to go to full-time, yes.
Okay. So that's the HR department in total?
That's the whole HR department.
Yeah, and so if I could just follow up to Ton on that, because this is Melissa's, it's only been a few months with this new position, and she's focusing most of her time, as you said, in HR. We figure we'll look at that each year once she gets HR the way she wants it to be at this point. And then we'll look at, it's the same thing, we have a discussion every year about Pam's wages and if they should be allocated in Russ's budget or we're not going to Christine's.
I understand the analogy, and I just wanted to see where
I just wanted for everyone to understand who might be new, that is a discussion we have every year.
Good.
But she's got some organizational things she wants to prioritize.
Corey?
Can you remind us for everybody the history? Like, so a couple years ago, did we allocate more hours to HR, what do we do?
I believe it was 2017, but it might have been 18.
2018.
18, okay. So Donna, our previous HR director, had come to us because she had been working a lot of nights and overtime and asked for an assistant, a full-time, and as the budget committee, we recommended it be a part-time position and go from there and see how that goes. From our subcommittee meeting this year, we see the need that position should be full-time now. Does that answer your question?
I wanted to recall on what we had done in the past.
Yeah, because it was a brand-new position that was being asked, and as we typically do, we ask for those positions to go part-time before we jump right into full-time, see how it goes.
So then I wonder, obviously there's been a pretty robust discussion with the select board and the town manager of making this change. Are we continuing to solve the problem or the challenge we had in HR by having one person who's semi-focused on, it sounds like a lot focused on HR, and then one full-time? Like, are we taking 2 steps back to make a step forward? How do you feel? Like, how does...
Sure. So I think we're going in the right direction, and this would get us there. So we have to focus on improving our records retention, our consistency in supporting the employees' evaluation processes, all that stuff. Some of that is going to become electronic, which the goal is, I think, if we're able to get the position to be full-time, that my role in a dual role with the full-time would allow us to function as an efficient department at that point.
Because you're going to be creating...
We're trying to create some efficiencies. Yeah. So, because you asked me long-term, right? I'm working a lot of nights and weekends right now, so I wouldn't say it's efficient at the moment. But the goal, we will be getting there. Yeah.
And having 2 people for the organization, the size that we are, like right now, we don't have 2 full-time people. But if you think about from a human resources perspective, just how many employees we do have, which is 130 some odd full-time, and then another 30 or so what I would call regular part-time, and then a number of temporary seasonals like Parks and Recreation that still need to go through the same hiring process every year as any other employee would be. And retiree questions and benefits issues that come up. There is plenty of work. I mean, even with 2 people, it's probably going to be stretched to some degree. But
my question wasn't coming from a standpoint of like, do we need this? It was, the need was clear 3 years ago when we did this, and we said, let's do it half-time. Like, I just want to make sure we're not, the way we're structuring it continues to solve that problem and not create a new problem. Because, now you throw on COVID and, all the things that go with that in HR, like, it just seems like, I just want to make sure for the long term, we are creating a good situation. Because your time in town manager, I would think that would grow to some extent as, the role gets defined and opportunities come up. And so that 80-90% could easily slip down to something less.
I think my understanding, and tell me if I'm wrong, is like Nancy said, you guys like to make incremental changes to make sure that the changes you're making are efficient and effective. So you looked at it half-time. Now we're saying we did that and we need to do full-time. If we need to come back, I don't want to come back after being here for a shorter amount of time and make a request that is more than we need. So I think this will get the department to a way in which we can function, and if it needs to be reevaluated, then we come back. I would hate to ask for too much. I'd rather say, let's work on this for a year, and if we need to, if the role of assistant town manager or HR director changes, and then review that with you guys going forward. But if you'd like me to follow a different process, I can certainly evaluate it.
Well, I guess just, following up on Russ's comments about just like the depth of employment that we have. Obviously, this is not, this is more just to get us up to a functional specification than it is to match growth in employment. And it almost sounds like, boy, even if this gets approved, we're still a couple of steps behind the amount of HR that's required to service that large a population of employees.
I will be honest, we will have to reevaluate that next year, but I would like more time to reevaluate it because, like I said, I don't want to ask for too much because if we can put some efficiencies into the department that makes us a little more effective, we would like to do that. But yes, you are correct. We have 130 full-time employees, about 30 regular part-time year-round employees, plus about 100 seasonal employees, like Russ said, open enrollment, retirees. There's a lot of pieces, and COVID is a huge factor, and mental health and recruitment and retention. So all of these things may be a discussion next year. I would like a little bit more time, unless you guys would like to increase the department, I will never say no to that, but
I guess and the only reason why I raise it as a concern is it's servicing our family, it's servicing our employees, and it's not a fire truck, right? It's not like eking by another year with a rusty fire truck. It's taking care of people, and so that's my only express for concern is that we're just, since 2018 till now, we're just kind of elevating the budget just to get almost good enough,
I will never turn away extra help. I was at work at 4:30 a.m. yesterday until 6 o'clock last night. And that is my choice to try to help the department go in the right way. And I will never turn away extra help. But I know that the budget is really tight and that we have a lot of projects. And so I felt like we wanted to be very respectful with the request to say, we do really need 2 full-time people. And I would love to come back if after another year we need to ask more questions.
Yeah, unfortunately, reality, it's only going to be 6 months because by the time it gets approved and then the budget gets worked up, it's going to be less. But I think our approach of walking into this is the way we want to go without belaboring it too much. Tom?
A couple more questions, partly for the record. How long have you been in that position, Human Resources?
So since July 25th.
And what were we doing, Russ? What were we doing in the gap between the retirement of our previous director and July 25th?
Yep. So she retired June 18th, and Russ.
Of this year.
Yes.
Oh,
it was about a month.
All right. For some reason, I was under the impression that there had been a substantial gap, but there was someone else who had retired, and then there was
Donna retired, and we were incredibly lucky. Our HR assistant that works part-time stepped up and is an incredible asset to our town and worked full-time for us and supported Russ, and Russ served as HR for about a little over a month until I was put into the position.
Got it.
And we're incredibly lucky to have her because she has been a fantastic support for the town.
And that person that is part-time now is slated and is available to become full-time?
Yes, and interested in doing the position.
And willing to do it?
And willing to do it,
Okay,
yes.
Bob.
If given the support, yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So just to conclude my comments, I think, and I read in your narrative that you're looking to make things more efficient, and there's tons of solutions out in HR, right, for whether it's onboarding or offboarding or whatever. So yeah, hit that hard. Make sure we're as efficient as we can be before we talk more about, you're never going to get out of the HR conversations that you have to have, and they'll take an entire afternoon, and where'd my day go? But those things that can be mechanized.
That's what we're looking to do. I think from an employee standpoint too, I think employees would like to be able to fill out forms online. I know finance would like us to be able to fill out forms online and be able to read everybody's signature. Right. And so we can get there. We just need some time to get there. And so there may be a request for some additional software support or something to be more functional next year. But I think we'd like to review. Finance has been an amazing partner with us because finance and HR work really hand in hand. And so everybody has been very supportive of how we can move the department forward.
And I'd just add that I am sensitive to the position and the fact that it's a new hybrid position, and so we're having ongoing conversations about the things that I've been asking Melissa to do from the assistant town manager slot. So, and she's been great to, with special projects and things that have been going on, like ARPA as a big example. She was actually very instrumental in working with our congressional delegation to get money queued up for ARPA funding and congressional direct spending and so forth. So, cool. Trying to keep her time split well enough that we can get the HR objectives achieved that we're working towards. So.
On a side note, we just found out from Senator Shaheen that she was able to get $1 million of money for congressional directed spending. So Pappas was able to get $600,000, and if the federal budget passes, we'll get more, even more money.
And what was that for?
So that would have been for Webster Ave Pump Station.
Just the million. The 600's for the siphon, right?
600,000 for the siphons and 1.05 million from Senator Shaheen through congressional directed spending. We found out Tuesday, I think it was. So
I've been on my,
Assuming that-
I've been doing my
Assuming,
skeptical.
I know. I'm trying to be positive.
The money, it's not positive or negative, it's just skeptical. The budget has to pass
Realistic.
at the federal level, and then we will realize the
We
money.
could just raise the debt ceiling again and pass it.
But we can say with a pretty high level of confidence, it's coming.
You'll have to do that in December.
Yeah, as long as the Webster Ave price tag doesn't keep going north.
Well, that's a discussion
That's a
for
different
another
day.
night.
On November
Yeah.
night 18th, I think.
We're
to be
thinking
specific.
positively right now.
Any other questions? I have just a couple. I know in the past we've talked about various printers and things, and sometimes we've obsessed about it unnecessarily. Do we have any
Say
kind
we.
of
Not we.
we the gross committee? I'm not going to single anybody else.
Not me.
Royal we.
You can sit down. Do we have like a bulk purchasing program? I know we don't have a purchasing agent per se. Have we ever done anything like that? Like if this department versus this department needs something, is that, or is
Well,
it just if you need it, you need it?
We try to work together on purchasing where we can. I think just in a general sense, we're always checking with one another on different things, like for
Okay.
phone plans. Greg Bisson, our Parks and Rec director, is actually our appointed phone guru who works with the vendors to get us very good deals on smartphones and the like. So I think the short answer is yes, we do that. And we have right now we have a lease printer program. So many of the printers within this building, in fact, almost all of them, I think, are part of a lease program where it provides not just for the lease, but for toner too. So we do try to combine forces to get
Technology's
get
so
our
cheap
best
these
deals.
days. You go down to Staples and they practically give it to you. So I was just wondering if there was a coordinated effort. I know in the past we tried that.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is on the reclassifications. Doreen, is there a way to make like a note so that next year, if some of these go through, if not all of them, we'll be able to see that in the note of the department, so that if there's an increase in the wages in the department, we'll sort of know what
Where
it
it
is.
came from, yeah.
Because otherwise, it's going to just sort of fall through the cracks. There's going
Yeah,
to be
I think
this.
it probably would be clearer if we put it in the different departments where
Right.
they got, yeah, of course.
Right, the note on the department, because her budget is going to go down, the department's budget is going to go down maybe by 7,500, and then that money is going to just sort of fly away, and it'd be nice to know where it lands.
Sure.
So if you can just.
That makes sense.
Make a mental
Yeah.
note to,
I'll put it in right now.
that'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you. Any further questions on Assistant Town Manager, Human Resources Department budget?
No, but can I just point out that something Russ just said goes to show how well our department heads work together for our town, that Greg, who is the Parks and Recreation Director, is the guru for our phone. They all, for the most part, step up and work together really well, and I think we don't recognize that enough.
That answers my questions. When I saw Greg drive around in a car with Verizon, wrapped in that leather jacket he's got with the symbol on it.
Hey, you gotta have
Now
some
it makes
swag.
sense.
Gotta have some swag.
Side hustle, exactly.
So the new benefits total for human resources, Doreen, please?
Yes, the new benefits total is $49,458.
And we made no changes, so the new human resources total.
Yes, the new HR total is $172,959, and again, that's 172,959.
So moved.
Second.
No further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, opposed.
You're opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll ask Bob. Thank you.
Our town clerk is next. Sorry to get you up here prematurely, but yes, I thought we were moving right along, so I sent Pam down to get you. Good morning. Good morning. Andy Kohler, our town clerk.
Did you say you thought we were moving right along?
We were.
Well, I thought she was on for 10:15.
Yeah. Right, it's 9:15.
So we're moving right?
No, never mind. We are moving along.
The old definition,
Sitting
anyway.
there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Anyway.
I've never been
let's
so
go.
efficient in
Let's
my
go.
life.
I think that clock is
Broken.
No,
Andy, how
it's
we
not.
doing?
We're moving along. So, page 4 and 5. Good morning, Andy. Hi. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to just start with the town moderator because it's first. Town moderator is on page 4. Does anyone have any questions about that? It's pretty static, depending on our elections each year.
Which we have 3.
Which we have 3, and then we budget for
A
a
special.
special and a special deliberative session if needed, correct?
Yep.
Thank you.
No questions.
No benefits change on this one, right?
Total remains the same.
Total remains the same. Any questions on town moderator? Want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the town moderator budget for $1,130.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Next is the town clerk budget, that's on page 5. We recommend it as is, just a few notations that line item 55058, which is the contract services, Andy moved it down to equipment leases, but the number remains the same. So there's a $60 difference. I don't remember why that is, but, and last year I noted something, that was 55199, the office equipment maintenance. We had discussed last year about, not putting any money in it, we had moved it into another line item, but Andy convinced us to reevaluate that this year, and she put the money back into that line item. And other than that, I do not believe the subcommittee has any further comments.
So that money, just to clarify, was in another line and you just broke it
I just
out?
moved that.
Okay.
I had a,
Corey.
just a couple, how are you, Andy?
I'm good, how are you doing?
Good. On a couple of lines that I guess I don't see them spent in 2020 because probably for obvious reasons, but our computer supply line, 55049. I'm wondering, probably just didn't spend because we didn't spend last year. This year, it doesn't look like we've spent.
I usually wait till the end of the year to buy the ink cartridges that we need. 'Cause there
Okay.
are some printers in our office that do need ink cartridges.
Okay, and last year we just said, we're good.
Yeah,
Okay,
I tried not to spend last year.
yeah, right. We talked, yeah. And then the other one is 55241, the records retention.
Yep, the $5,000 was given back to the general fund.
Yep.
And it was supposed to be refunded this year.
Yep. And will we have a plan for, or maybe there's already spending?
No, $38 year-to-date through early October.
Will we spend that in the rest of the year, or?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Well, that $5,000 that was in 2021 shouldn't have been there because didn't we discuss that?
We did, and we actually recommended, but I didn't go back and look at the meeting to see what the discussion was, but our memory was that we had zeroed that out for the year because of trying to make reductions, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I forgot to ask you about that during my apologies, so you look perplexed. not a great way to hear that we question that.
Yes, I can look into it.
Thank you.
And get back to everyone. Yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to spend anything this year in record retention, other than the $38.
Right.
I see.
I'm sorry, book restoration,
Yeah.
sorry.
Spending it this year.
Right, right.
But you're planning to spend it next year.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and how many months, several weeks at least, her office was closed. You were there.
Yeah.
But as far as any, as far as any, extra, if you will, they cut that out for last year,
Yeah.
understandably. So, and her retention, record retention, she's got a plan. She does a little bit each year instead of all at once. Kind of like our paving plans and sidewalks.
How are your shelves working out? This is what, year 3?
Awesome.
You need more, or does that
No, I
open up
don't
a lot of
think so.
space?
That'll be up to the next town clerk. Because they're working right now, and I still have room. I still have plenty of room, so.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And when do you anticipate on meeting the next town clerk?
Probably about 6 years.
6 years?
6 years.
Well, it'll be nice to.
Ask Russ, he's got my.
It'll be nice to meet her.
6 years it is.
Wow.
So, and she brought that up, I will say, I keep saying she, I'm sorry, Andy.
It's all right.
What's wrong with she?
The department is bigger than just one person.
Right. Andy has a game plan, if you will, in place for training in the town clerk's office in anticipation of her retirement. And I always think it's important to commend our department heads when they do that, so that when their retirement time comes, they have people in place.
Succession planning.
But you're
That's it. That's the word that wasn't coming. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
I'd love to be on 15.
Succession planning.
Yeah.
So you do have a plan for next year on book restoration,
Yes.
and that's going to be channeled in. So,
Yeah.
okay.
And what kind of book does that refer to?
All of our old records that still need to be restored.
So you have.
Come down to my office.
For a tour. The tour is
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, this huge wall, and it moves like smooth as butter. It just.
I
Yes, Maureen.
found some notes from last year from the General Government Subcommittee that says the restoration project is on hold for 2020 and will resume in '21. So that's why the 5,000 is still there.
Okay, thank you.
It was the other way around.
Thank you.
But I was.
I can send those over to you.
No,
if you like.
I'm sure I have it. It's just, it dropped off my check off list.
Okay, thank you.
We thought everything would resume in 2021.
Big picture.
Yeah.
Relative to record retention and restoration, I assume you're restoring old records, right?
Yes.
But at some point, that has become digital, and
Until the law changes, it has to be in paper.
oh, okay, so this need is forever?
Yeah.
Until someone says otherwise?
Until they change the law.
Okay. Very good.
So can I ask one follow up on that? So if we didn't, so we have 5,000 in the budget this year, and we're not going to spend it, but is there, I don't know how the process works, but is there a way to encumber that so that we didn't need to put another $5,000 in for next year, since we seem to have it already? But
Could do that.
Right.
Slide it over.
I don't know. Because we're losing we're not losing it.
Well, but we beat up on other departments for lesser amounts of money that don't get spent. So, yeah, it is a decent amount of money, $5,000. Is there a way you could start the work in the next few months and encumber this year's budget and then reduce next year's budget?
Or we could beat up on you, Andy, like we do everybody.
we don't wanna come up with work.
If Bob likes to beat up.
As long as we have a contract dated by 12/31
Yeah, that's
of
the
this year,
thing.
then we can encumber the funds.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll spend it this year, but not next year.
Well, it's just an idea,
Okay.
because last year we got,
Yeah.
this year.
Well, I think the reason why I didn't spend it is because at the beginning of the year, we didn't know what was going to be happening.
Fully understand.
So-
We're not.
Yeah.
to use Chris's words, beating you up. We're just asking
It were
questions.
your words.
I think Corey's saying if you can hold over the
Yeah.
5,000.
Right, then
Yeah.
From this
there's no
year.
harm. We don't want to do any harm to the
I think that's
budget,
the
but
best
And then we can
solution.
reduce the
Right.
2022 budget by some number.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Does that then result in an action from this board
Yes.
relative to next year's
Yes.
number?
Yes.
Thank you.
So what would be a reasonable number to put in for next year if you can do something this year? $1,000?
Sure. I don't know, well,
How much can you encumber?
I can get 2 books restored, 2 big books restored on 5,000, so half of that would be 1 book.
And do you know if you can, oh, I see what you're saying now,
Yeah,
sorry.
all I have to
just
do is
answered my
call-
question before I asked it all out
All I
loud.
need to do is call Browns River and they can, I explain it to them.
So you'd try to do 2 books, or at least get the process started, and then still have enough to maybe do another book next year.
Right.
So we would reduce that line item.
How does
in
that
half?
sit with everybody? Any questions
Great
on
idea.
that process?
Possible. Should we run that by the town manager and see if we can encumber 2,500 this year?
we know that we wouldn't have to.
So you're suggesting we spend the 5,000 that was budgeted this year?
Yes.
This year?
Right.
And then adjust this line for the following?
For next year for
To 2,500.
And the encumbrance process is at the end of the year. What we do is go through a list of encumbrances that are submitted to the board for approval at year's end. So if the plan was to encumber, it's October 22nd now, right? So if the plan was to encumber the remainder of this money, then that could be set up in the system and approved by the board, and we could carry over the money into the following fiscal year to have the work done in that year that is encumbered. And then there would be whatever amount there is made available in '22 to spend in '22. So it sounds to me like 1 book is $2,500, and basically that's what you're dealing with, like old town meeting records and other things like that.
If that doesn't hamstring you too much, that would be a nice little way to go about it.
Does that mean we have to go $2,538 so that she can get the 2 books, because it's $38?
No, we're not gonna quibble, we're gonna round number it.
So, then shall I move to reduce that?
Any further questions on that process? Go for it,
Then
Nancy.
I move to reduce line item 55241, record retention, to $2,500.
Second? I will second that. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Good pickup, Corey.
And thank you, Andy,
You're welcome.
for working with us.
Yeah, thanks.
Any further questions on the budget, or Nancy, any other?
Nope, elections,
Anna?
moderator, those 2 are, as I said, they're pretty static every year.
Okay.
Depends on how many elections.
New benefits total, Doreen?
The new benefits total for town clerk is $121,432.
Okay, and subtracting out the 2,500, the new town clerk total?
$374,334, and again, that is 374,334.
So moved.
Second?
Further discussion? Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Enjoy your afternoon.
Mr. Chair, do you want to do the elections number too?
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. As I said, elections are static. Does anyone have any questions? It's a matter of. Nope. Still no law, by the way, on when to replace our election machines. I ask that question every year, just so you know.
When they're gonna do it.
Okay, so I move for elections total at $25,003.
No change to benefits.
Second?
Nothing.
Anyone?
Second.
Bueller? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Hi, Dave. Good morning.
Morning.
We're moving right along here.
Yeah, I noticed
Obviously,
I just started
my
thinking-
attempt is,
Note stuff, but.
Just starting your budget, right?
and Kristen's coming at some point, or no?
Well, Kristen was at a workshop in Greenland.
I didn't realize, okay.
And she was coming back around 10:30.
Okay, we
and
can-
then going back after, so I can try to answer any questions.
Absolutely.
She'll be back.
Yeah, nope. Okay, so we're gonna, page 10, let's go to page 10.
Treasurer, financial, tax, oh boy.
Page 10. 10 of 33.
There you go.
Top of the page. Yeah. Organized here. Okay.
All right.
So that's the next page. Okay. Everybody ready? Okay, so, hello, Mr. Sharples. Well, on town planner, we're gonna start with the Sustainability Advisory Committee. As everyone recalls, that was a citizen's petition, and it started out requesting a full-time sustainability director office.
Yeah.
And through our last few years of budget, we had the town manager add to his workload and help them to develop, I forgot what it's called, Dave. What was the project you worked with them on?
The coastal resilience grant?
That's it.
Oh.
It was also like a goals thing that you, Julie.
Yeah, there was a work plan, there was a needs assessment.
Yes.
There was a gap
Yeah,
analysis.
yeah.
There was several
So,
stuff.
so they've actually been moving along, and I think the subcommittee feels that they've done everything we've asked them as a budget recommendation committee to do. But instead of hiring a separate sustainability director, if you will, Kristen Murphy, who is our natural resource person, is available to go full-time. And the recommendation is to have Kristen go full-time and absorb the sustainability and energy part of Dave's workload. And we felt that was a good next step for our Sustainability Advisory Committee. Yes.
So does that mean that we're basically giving sustainability a part-time person? Or am I misunderstanding that?
Well, yes.
Not the
We're giving
Dave was
Dave, we're giving
taking over
planning a
that
part-time
mantle,
person.
and he's busy doing other things.
Right.
So this is an effort.
Right. And that $5,000 that Dave was getting for a stipend is in the budget right now until March, because that's when our budget switches, even though it's
Yeah.
December 31st, we have to wait for the voting. So that $5,000 will also offset a little bit of Kristen going full-time. But I guess it's because Kristen would go full-time if this is accepted and voted on, to do, we'd have to ask Kristen each year to probably compartmentalize maybe the time she spends on her current job, which is a natural resource planner, and sustainability and energy.
Okay. The reason why I asked that, because I'm wondering if the Sustainability Committee is going to look at this as, oh, great, we now have a part-time person that we can give 20 hours of work to.
Can't, well, they wouldn't do that. It would be under Dave.
Okay, so they would go to Dave and say, Dave, we got 20 hours. I want to make sure that it's clear to
But he's
that
spent the year
committee.
managing that, so I think he's got some.
No, I think Chris's point.
But you see what I'm saying? I don't want, if
Absolutely.
it'll be clearly defined to the committee what her role is, so that the committee doesn't think that, oh, she's been moved to full-time because of us, because of our needs. Because that could put a lot of pressure on a person.
Yeah, no, it's not to talk for Dave, but it's more from
Dave,
my
you good at saying
perspective.
no? Are you good at saying no?
I'll chime in, but I'll let.
Yeah, no, no, from my perspective, it's to move forward with those efforts. It's not that the Sustainability Advisory Committee gets 21 hours a week of Kristen's time, so much as it's an overall encompassing everything with Kristen under Dave.
Yeah. No, I get that. I just want to make sure everybody gets that.
And I think Dave has owned those efforts and is perfectly capable of delegating and defining.
And the Sustainability Advisory Committee, I mean, I don't know, have you gotten the job description?
No.
You have the job description?
We have not.
Sorry? Well, I have that.
Actually, Chris
has something.
No, it's all right.
Let's let Dave finish.
I'll let Dave finish, and then I'll chime in.
Just briefly, I mean, I went to the Sustainability Advisory Committee, talked about this, I shared the revised, updated job description of it that took some elements, and they will provide support to that committee. It is, but that's not the way the structure, organizational structure works, is they will dictate what Kristen or that full-time position will do. I mean, I will manage that and dictate that, and I believe they understand that.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I don't have any concerns about what Dave can do.
No, and I just want to support that.
It wasn't about Dave,
I
and
sit
it
on
wasn't about
sustainability,
Kristen.
and yeah, we're fully in step with what Dave's saying, and he's been doing yeoman's work managing this, and it's really it's just to unencumber that. I think it's been a pretty great relationship so far, and I think this is just an enhancement of that, from our opinion. So,
And Chris is on the Sustainability Committee.
Yeah.
Just as an FYI, Corey.
So, how many hours does Kristen spend on natural resource now, or how many hours does she have to give towards sustainability?
She works, I mean, I did the average a couple weeks ago. She's budgeted for what, 29, 27 and a half.
I'm sure it's in here.
So that's about, she might average a little bit less because she does take a couple of weeks off each year, unpaid, so might be a little bit, like 26, 20, closer to 27 than 27 and a half. So just do the math, that would leave, about 13,
Gotcha.
12.
But isn't some of that the Energy Committee, or are they sort of enrolled into the Sustainability Committee?
No, the Energy Committee is part of the job description as well.
Right, so it's not actually 13 hours for the Sustainability.
Oh, no,
Committee.
no, it's just an additional, I was thought additional 13 hours a week spent on sustainability efforts, not the Sustainability Committee efforts, just sustainability efforts, because there's things beyond energy and sustainability. We can look at local waste reduction through the town processes and so forth that really are, separate from either of the committees. So there's a lot of work to be done.
yeah, these things can't really be untangled in that respect, right? All of these things, it's really hard to put in a specific box because natural resources and waste and all these things, they really run together. So,
Yeah.
Can Judy speak, or do you have a follow-up?
I will follow up, but go ahead.
No, go ahead with the follow-up. I have a different question.
Oh, okay. So Nancy, you mentioned in your tee-up that the Sustainability Committee had done everything we asked them to do, or maybe it was a subcommittee asked to do, and I want to be clear, I don't remember asking them to do anything in particular. We just made a recommendation.
I might have misspoke a little bit.
Okay,
Corey.
fair enough.
Okay.
So then I heard that.
Let me just clarify a little bit more. What we said was they were a new advisory committee.
Yep.
And didn't really have their goals, or we wanted them to maybe have a little bit more of an understanding of what they wanted to do. So Rockingham Planning Commission and our planning department worked with them to help them, and please correct it if I'm, to help them verbalize, I guess.
Sure.
To pinpoint what it is that they wanted to do and then move forward, and that's why Dave filled in that slot until there was a point where we could then see what the next step was.
Yes.
And the subcommittee is recommending that the next step is to have Kristen go full-time and absorb hours, the times that Dave has been working on, because his workload is really large.
Right.
And we felt it was a good move.
Yep. And so Did I hear there's a new job description out there for the hours or for the position?
It's amended.
Have you seen that as a subcommittee?
The current job description's been amended to reflect the new activities that it would take on.
Gotcha. So
Did you guys see that?
And no, we did not see that. So again, I'm just finding out about this now.
Yeah.
But we didn't ask for it either, in all fairness, because we felt that if this is approved and voted on to go forward, that's something that Dave and Kristen would sit down and do. So my understanding, and again, correct me, Dave, and if I'm wrong, but this was just a conversation with the sustainability committee, just to make sure everybody was on the same page about what, Kristen would be covering, but not necessarily a specific amount of hours.
And it reminded me, the prior cycle, we actually added language to your job description, to cover some of those sustainability things. Did we not? When you absorbed some of those things, I'm trying to remember if we did that or not.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there might have been goals.
Even if we did, it's not something we have to have in mind, because sustainability is integrated into planning.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Judy?
You mentioned in the, or perhaps it's in your narrative, hoping to pursue funding opportunities in the future that you'd said you'd been able to obtain grant funding. I'm just wondering, if and when we ever get infrastructure bills passed in Congress, are you anticipating that you would need more time to pursue any funding opportunities that might become available in the next year or two?
Yeah, I guess my point there was that, when I started here 6 years ago, I had 3 committees. I staffed the planning board, and I was the technical advisory committee chair, and I was on the Rockingham Planning Commission technical advisory committee. Fast forward 6 years, not quite 6 years, and I have 11 committees now. So I've added 8 committees and that responsibilities. Since I've been here, I've gotten more than $800,000 in grant funds for the town in those 6 years.
800,000.
Over 800,000. So, but with my duties going, like getting more, I have less time, because grants are kind of an optional. It's not, it's like a thing that I try to get and focus on. Every time I see funding, I try to go get it. But the more stuff I have to do, the less time I have to go get funding. So I guess that was my point, to okay, if we get Kristen to take some of those committees and some of that responsibility and work on sustainability, I will have additional.
No, I understood that. Maybe the question is more to Russ. If and when there's any money available through infrastructure bills that may be passed, what department would bear the brunt of securing any funds that might be available?
I don't think it's sort of a siloed answer. I think it's a team effort when we talk about getting grants. And like Dave said, he's gotten $800,000 for the town. That could be a role also for assistant town manager, town manager. It just depends upon what the program is and what the goal is and what we're trying to get. So I know Dave specializes actually in getting, and you can itemize them, but Dave got our TAP grant for the Epping Road area for the sidewalks for Winter Street and so forth, and also has secured more than one technical assistance grant and a CLG historical grant and so forth. So those grants fall within his bailiwick, so that's where we went to do the applications.
I just want to make sure that there's some capacity in the town to be alert to these possibilities when they do come, and a mechanism for following through.
Yeah, I think we're staying pretty well on top of it with all the money that's been out there. And, you heard earlier about the congressional direct spend programs and things like that. So we're in there on the ground floor looking for money.
Great, thank you.
Tom?
Actually, the vice chair is going to go ahead.
Yes, that's the thing, so it's like...
Actually, Tom.
No, I just ceded to the vice chair.
Oh.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
So, that's something I think this is a good time just to kind of bring it back forward. We focus a lot on like a $5,000 line, which $5,000 is $5,000. if Dave's gone from 3 to 11 committees, and he's, he catches and Russ catches these grants coming in, but to write those grants and write them well, it takes time to focus on them. So I think anything we can do or help to, there's something they're suggesting that frees up some of his time so he can go after these grants. I've worked with Dave in the past. He's good at getting them, but you can't get them if you don't have any time. And I just think anything we do to get them off some of those 11 committees is a really
So can I just push
really
back
smart.
on that a little bit, Mr. Chair?
No.
I'm really glad.
That's what seating to the vice chair.
I'm really glad I did. I'm really glad I did, though. No, listen.
Welcome to my life.
Listen, this is going to be probably more statements than questions, so bear with me, and I'm probably going to stick my foot in my mouth at some point. I'm really glad that Chris is on this committee because I know nothing about the sustainability committee, okay? So, and I don't understand what their output is, and that's probably on me, that's not on the committee. But I just want to have said that. So, number 2, it's an advisory committee, okay? And I just want to make that point. And so, and we're talking here about increasing a position from part-time to full-time, and we all know what that means relative to budgeting. So that's usually a big deal to all of us. There's no doubt in my mind about your duties and the amount of work that takes up. This is not in any way denying your workload, but I think that from sitting on this committee and paying attention to it for a little while, one of the reasons why you have that workload is because you've been tasked with it and or agreed to serve on it. And we're talking about work supporting an advisory committee, and again, from my perspective, a committee that I don't quite understand the output from. And I am curious as to what that buys us as a town, dedicating an employee, full-time employee with benefits to these advisory committees. I just want to really push back hard on that for just a moment and just state that outright and just share my ignorance about all of that.
Well, here's the response to that. From someone who's been on a lot of town committees over the years, there are some committees, relatively new committees, that have required a lot of oversight by town. If you have a volunteer committee, you can't just go spending money and saying, let's do things without town staff buy-in. You have to have a point person in town, otherwise it's not going to get done. And there's no mechanism for getting it, for funding that. So we've had especially two and possibly more recent committees that have really rolled up their sleeves and gotten into some things. And it fell to Dave, to be I'll be nice, to supervise these volunteer activities, so that they stay focused and stay on point with something that the town is, as a town, as taxpayers, want to be involved in, and that we can afford any results that come out of their analysis. And I'm speaking of their committee as well as the facilities committee. They're both doing really good work, but there's also a potential to spend a lot of money coming out of them. So we need to have somebody in town to, so that's what Dave's role is. And Kristen, quite frankly, just if I could finish, Kristen has done fantastic work working with the Conservation Commission and really getting the town's natural resources, really lined up. And she does a great job working with Dave in that regard. And quite frankly, I've worked with her for years on the Trails Committee, and she's been very patient, let's say, leading up to this point. I think she'll do a fantastic job, or whoever's in that position, but we need somebody in town to be the point person for these things, and it's sort of fallen to Dave.
I don't doubt it from one bit, and it's not meant to be critical of anybody's output and dedication to the task. But again, I've been in town just long enough to remember that we had a Conservation Commission without a natural resource planner. Now we have a half-time position that is dedicated largely to that effort, right? Do I have that correct? And then we had a sustainability effort, citizen effort, whose initial mission statement was to hire a sustainability advisor. That was their mission. And now we have, a few years later, we go from a part-time position to a full-time position to support 2 advisory committees. Look, I told you I was going to stick my foot in my mouth. I did. I just wanted to make the observations. I think I'm fairly accurate in the observations. What I'm less clear about is and that's on me, what the output of that is in terms of what does that get us in terms of grants and in terms of results from those efforts. So I just want to have said that because we're going to approve a full-time, potentially approve a full-time position with benefits and all, and we know how hard we fight over those things when they are necessary for necessary departments by statute or what have you, and now we're talking about doing it for 2 advisory committees. So I told you I was going to stick my foot in my mouth. I just want to really, put that out there.
I think if Dave wants to clarify anything, that'd be a good time to your statements.
I've pulled up the charge of the committee because I think a lot of residents might not know what that is, and I think a lot of folks in town might not know what that is. I'm happy to read this on our town website, and I realize that people are very busy and reading meeting minutes and things like that aren't always possible. So if the chair will allow.
Before we get into that, because that's sort of off the grid, Kathy had a question,
Kathy.
so I'd like to defer to her first, and then we'll follow up with that.
So what I can see is this is about $15,000 to spend. I think that this is a good spend. I think that we can save $15,000, considering that, climate change is costing us money. She may be able to come up with projects, help us, guide us through this, but with her and Dave, guide us through these times that we're dealing with. And I also think that she's a great person to do this, since she's been working with the Conservation Commission. I'm sure she's been working with the Energy Committee already in the peripheral, and no, but she will. Yeah, right. And I think that the initial ask by the Sustainability Committee was like $40,000. So 15 is great, and I do think, this is one of those times, and I don't like to add positions, as you have seen today, but I think this is something that every town is eventually going to have. And so we're just ahead of the game, and it's so unusual for me to say that.
Yeah.
Hold again, Chris, if you would. Corey?
Thanks. I totally appreciate Tan's measured and thought out comments, always. I completely agree with Kathy. I like that it would be, within Dave's department, that there's someone, at the town level that's kind of watching and measuring and managing what's going on with the position. But I think, to Kathy's sentiments, none of this is going away, and she can do a lot of good for us. So.
Anna?
I would just like to add that I think it's been made clear to us on our subcommittee and in other conversations with Dave and the community, this is work that the planning department has wanted to do all along. It's not work that's necessarily spawned by the Sustainability Committee. It just happens to be that there's a movement in our community to push this work forward, and we are now to the point where our town is, our department is asking to dedicate more resources to this effort with the support of the Sustainability Committee, and not at the instruction of the Sustainability Committee. And I also, just to clarify, we're talking about a full-time position, but we're not talking about adding a full-time position. We're talking about adding 13 hours.
To a person who's been
To,
a dedicated employee for the town, who's done
Who's
way
ready
more than what we
to
asked her.
embrace and
Not that we're giving it to her, but, the
and
position.
promote this work forward.
Agreed.
No learning curve.
I would look at this as similar to the assistant HR position that we just talked about. That we crawled and then we walked, and now we're looking to do something more. We have discussed this a few years ago. We see now that there's a need, and we're changing, the approach with it. So without getting into the micromanaging of the department, I think it seems like a good way to go.
I just want to add to, and we'll get into that when we get to the CIP and the Rains Farm, but Kristen has a history of grants, and there was a project, and we lost funding, but she also worked with them so we can have a better chance of getting the funding the next time. What I'm trying to say is the grant money, the grant applications and the grant funds that become available to us, we have been very fortunate, for the most part, in having those awards given to us. And if we miss them for some reason, we have employees and people in the town that are really good at working with whatever agency is behind those grants to what do we need to do to improve what we're doing to get them the next time. So,
any other questions, Chris?
I just want to make sure that when we come back next year that, and I support this, but that Dave is not on 11 committees.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to be able to do his job well. Or if he's doing his job well, he's doing way too much. And so I want Dave to come back and commit to being on less committees, because he is really good at getting grant funds, and he can actually stomach going through some of those, TAP grants, I think, because they're so it's a lot of money. They're a big time suck, and it's not easy to do. But it requires a lot of time and focus. And again, big picture, let's not get caught in the weeds of $5,000, $1,000, $500. If these guys, between Dave and Kristen, can bring in thousands upon thousands of dollars in grant funds for things that we need done in our community, then we need to make sure that they can free up and do that and not be running from meeting to meeting to meeting. Because when you're doing that, you're not writing grants and you're not getting your work done. That's big picture, what we need to be focused on. So.
And Dave also won an award for, was it the MUND, Dave?
Yeah.
Yes. We're very fortunate to have him, but I agree with Chris. We really need to let him focus on it.
Because, obviously, you guys know I've worked in municipal government, and you can get caught in the weeds and spend all day in the weeds and then go, the big picture, the big, the opportunities. There was no time at the end of the day. So, Dave, I'll be asking you how many committees you're on next year. So you might, if you're still on 11, you better lie to me.
I feel I wouldn't take them on if I didn't have the, it's just getting to that point where, and just so I can respond to your points here, just to clarify that I see this position small. Working for the committees is a small part of this, because Sustainability Advisory Committee meets once a month for about an hour to an hour and a half. And then Energy Committee meets for an hour a month. So you're talking, that's 2.5 hours per month, 13 hours a week, plus a couple extra days, because it's not a 4-week month, it's like 60 hours. It's a small part of it. There's so much more, addressing climate change. And we do things now, but we don't do, to me, we don't do as enough as we could. There's so much to do, and I don't believe the committees are driving the bus here. I believe that there's no way that I'd be proposing it if I didn't feel this work was necessary. It just happens to be that the energy committees and the sustainability's goals are similar to what the town sees as the things to do. It's not like driving the bus for the committees. And we're looking at nitrogen pollutant loadings. There's nitrogen permits are coming down from EPA. There's a lot of federal mandates that are coming down. The towns need to address these things, and we need to take the time to look at our regulatory framework and so our building codes and making sure this isn't costing the taxpayers money down. 10 years from now, we're having to fund $400,000 a year.
And I think that's why it's great that you say that out loud, and I'm glad I made the points that I did and that we're spending the time on this, because that's, even for myself, someone who tries to pay attention to budgets and staffing, et cetera, and for that matter is interested in, issues related to natural resources and I think sustainability, I don't know exactly what that means. But if I don't understand it, then the average individual in town probably is going to question it as well. So that's why it's good to have this conversation because I think it's good for us to understand that, if these kinds of efforts generate grants, let's say, and move the ball forward on those issues, great. But you don't want to be left with a perception that someone's sitting in an office 12 and a half hours a week supporting just supporting a committee. Do you understand? That's where
That's not what this.
and that's not what's happening, but that's what I wanted to just get clear.
I'm glad you did bring this stuff up, but I look at this as similar to our discussion 4 or 5 years ago about the Economic Development Director. We had an Economic Development Commission.
Yeah.
And by Dan Chartrand's own admission, who was on that commission for years, they were stagnant and weren't getting a lot of things done by his own admission. And he thought that and so we all took sort of a flyer on it.
Yeah.
A lot of questions about the metrics, what is going to tell us if this person's been successful. We sort of had to take a flyer on it, and it's been immeasurably successful. And I think this is sort of similar. We have to sort of take a flyer on the goal, the overall, goal, and hopefully it'll work out. And I think it will.
5 times already.
No, but obviously, in the interest of time, I won't read through what's already on the website, but I'd certainly, recommend that everybody just spend a minute and read through there. But I will say, I will summarize the primary language is advise and support the planning office, the select board on matters of sustainability. So it's really, it's not the other way around. They're not supporting us, we're supporting them. And so our job is to help identify things in the CIP or other places that might need just a little illumination from a sustainability perspective and look at the work that's being done. That's really it. So it's advise and support the work that's being done, not the other way around.
Excellent.
And
Thank you, Chris.
And education.
And maybe I was the only one that didn't understand that, and I took up too much time with the committee.
No, it's valuable. No,
So thank
it's
you.
good.
No, good.
You had some other items in the budget, Nance.
Yes, back to it. So 55289 studies, that amount is there. At 5,000, it is unspent as of August actuals, but that money is anticipated to be spent on a project we're doing in the Housing Advisory Committee with Rockingham Planning Commission.
Horsley Wood.
Yes,
And the Horsley.
yes, and you know where I was going with the Rockingham Planning Commission. So Housing Advisory Committee started around 2015, and we have our report with their goals and things, but we added some things this year, and Rockingham Planning needs to update their housing assessment, which is where we got a lot of our data from when we did our original report. So that's where I was going with that, sorry. Yes.
So I think I heard you say that the line will get spent for 2021.
Yes.
And it's being spent on a zoning analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a complete zoning analysis.
Okay, which is different from what we plan to spend it on in 2022, which is a housing zoning map.
2022.
So I'm looking at
this time to work
the
on.
subcommittee's narrative, write-up versus what the write-up in our budget is.
The housing zoning map.
I would go by the explanation in the budget.
Yep.
I didn't make the explanation in the budget says conducting zoning analysis with 2021 funds. No decisions have been made for 2022 at this time, but we'll work on master plan action agenda items. Because I put that because I had been meaning to do a build out with the studies, with the studies funding. And just because one time a grant came up and we needed grant funding, so we had to rob that, so I put off that. And then this became more of a priority with the town to get the zoning analysis completed for potentially a March vote. So that got kind of bumped, so I was hesitant to say what I was going to spend it on, because then sometimes it just changes and priorities shift and you need it for grant matching.
I just wanted to make sure we had plans and there was spending this year. That was it, so
Being
that's great.
spent and anticipated spending next year.
There's plenty of things to spend it on, it's just a matter of what is it going to be next year?
And we also recommended leaving the, we had put a sustainability expense line item of 2,500 in there. It has not been spent traditionally, but we are recommending leaving that in there with the change projected for Kristen to see, and again, reevaluate that next year. That's 553.
Well, let's be clear, we added it as a trade-off because we weren't adding the position.
We did, but
So we were giving them some resources to maybe hire some folks or do some things. So if that's not the case this year, we might want to revisit that.
well, okay. So, of course, as an entire committee, we can, as a subcommittee, our thought process is that if, as Kristen moves into this role, and there are grants, there are projects and things like that, there needs to be funds available to pursue. So that's where I was going with this.
Well, we also have a grant matching line item that is unspent as well. So there seem to be a lot of things, and I understand the nature of the beast, the grants and the matching funds and all of that. And the question is, how many of those do we need?
Well,
It's just a question.
Because, and I'll answer it if Dave wants to follow up with this. That, the one you're talking about is for planning. We're adding stuff to planning. So if we eliminate one of those numbers, which we absolutely can, are we, for lack of a better way of putting this, tying their hands to see where they can move forward?
Well, I didn't say anything about eliminating.
No,
just adjusting.
Question. Eliminate, adjust, whatever.
I wonder if we don't, to your point, Bob, but like, and to Nancy's really, is to just give it another year, and if Kristen's involved, see, what she ends up spending $2,500 on or not, and then coming back next year and seeing what happens.
Yeah, this was easier to do last year when we had COVID as an excuse.
It did go from.
You want to bring it back?
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
This would have never happened last year.
And just so you know, I just left it alone. I didn't really make a decision.
Oh,
I was just saying, the BRC added, I'm just gonna leave it there, and you guys have that discussion. I'm fine with whatever you folks decide. So.
Why don't we do, I think the matching is really important, the grant matching is really important. Why don't we half the sustainability expense, because we are adding that, and it wasn't used this year.
Can I?
Since Dave doesn't seem concerned about it.
Well, I'm wondering about Chris as well. Sorry to.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's $2,500, and I'd hate to haggle over it, and I'd also be remiss to put somebody in a add some responsibility to the person and tie their hands is a strong phrase, but limit their ability to chase, especially things like grants of matching funds and things like that. But I understand the spirit of let's save where we can, and because it's not like it's tied to a specific proposal. It's really I can go either way with that for sure.
Tom?
Yeah, we shouldn't spend too much time on it. It's $2,500 in the spirit of what Chris said a couple meetings ago. You can make the opposite argument about the COVID-19 situation, which is, yes, last year this would have been easy in the setting of the unknowns of COVID-19. This year we're potentially looking at stimulus type whatever legislation, infrastructure legislation, etc. ARPA. So you could make the exact opposite argument in today's setting. I'll leave it at that.
I'm going to say, leave the money where it is, because if it's needed, it'll be spent. If it's not needed, it won't be spent. It's a small dollar amount, but I have full faith in every staff member in this building that they're so good with money and they're so careful, and nothing just gets spent willy-nilly. But to give people the resources to maybe go after like matching grants, I think to quibble over that is kind of foolish, so.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
I agree.
Julie has a question.
No, I agree with Christine. The HDC is already looking at a grant itself. never mind the sustainability committee and the planning department itself, which we may be able to arrange some matching part of it, but every time you add some actual dollars, you're more likely to actually get the grant than if you just rely on in-kind services.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Okay.
What do we got?
Move on to 55200. It's just about this sustainability. The office supplies, it looks like it's overspent, and I just want everyone to understand that was part of last year's encumbrance, and it's only at 603 this so far. So I didn't want anyone to wonder why in August it was already overspent, and why we didn't reduce it. And talking with Doreen, I believe she's going to make an adjustment.
Yeah, it's part of last year's encumbrances, and it was a $2,500 one for that line item. So the budget's really $4,500 if we include that. So Dave is not over budget. He only really spent year-to-date $605 out of the $2,000.
Yeah. Okay, and that's all I have for the planning department. Unless anyone has any further questions.
New benefits number, Doreen, please?
Sure. The new benefits number is $40,307.
Thank you.
And the new total for planning is $271,096. And again, that's 271,096.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone, for the robust discussion.
Sorry for the time.
No apologies necessary.
We look at Tom when we say robust discussion.
We're still ahead of the game, Tom.
I think it's a good thing that we had this discussion because
Sure, 100%.
People, if you read some of the comments on like some of these Facebook pages or whatever, I don't do Twitter or whatever. If somebody says, "Well, was that discussed and how did that?" And it's like, watch the video, watch the meeting.
No, it's good to
We
have it.
had a discussion, and then they're going to have a discussion at the select board level. And I don't think people realize how hard we work here and how hard the departments work and how hard the select board works. I think, and here is evidence. What minute of this meeting should we have them go to?
Well, it's 10:12.
Let's go to the one where you say, "We work hard."
We're an hour ahead of schedule. We're brutally efficient.
I guess we're not working hard enough.
No,
Although
skip
we do
that
have
part.
3
Don't
minutes
direct him
before,
there.
an hour. So before we leave planning, there are
Yes.
a couple of CIP items.
Yeah, I'm not done. I want to do conservation, the
Never mind.
page 12. Sorry, Mr. Chair, we have just
No
one more.
apologies.
Never mind.
Okay, so, page 12, and 55088, dues. We're recommending increasing that by $50, and it was simply because Kristen found out the increase in one of the dues came in. It's not $850, it's $900, and these dues are literally by the amount. So $50 might not seem like a lot, but it does need to be allocated in properly. So we recommend 55088 dues be increased by $50 to $1,200.
Okay. Do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Got that, Doreen?
Yeah, are you ready for the total?
No, not quite yet. Well, not until
I'm done.
Madam Subcommittee Chair tells me I'm ready.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no apologies.
Don't you apologize to him.
Not trying to be polite. So no, actually, we recommend the remaining of that budget as is.
Excellent. Okay, so we are evidently ready for a new total.
Okay, the total Conservation Commission is $10,089. That's 10089.
So moved.
Second.
No further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Now to the CIP projects.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair? Are we going to do the Heritage and Historic District Commission
Oh, yeah,
ZBA
see?
budgets?
Russ just got me. He's right.
Normally you go through those and vote those as well.
So here, Historic District is on page 13. We recommend as is.
Any comments or questions?
2,825?
Moving that total, Nancy, I'm assuming?
So moved, 2,825.
Second.
All those in favor of $2,825 for budget for the Historic District Commission signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And next is Heritage Commission, page 13. Budget recommendation is $893, and that is recommended.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
Are you going to do zoning?
Yeah, going backwards, page 12. I'm going to, the renewable energy expense is $1. Do we need to approve $1?
Yes.
Okay, so I move renewable energy expense total at $1.
Second.
Okay, we're first and second in for discussion.
Yeah.
So this was new last year as a placeholder, presumably? Do we really need this as a, what is this for? Remind me.
It was for project.
The vast people watching this show.
I would expect me to
What
remind
exactly
them.
is?
It could be a grant match for something the Energy Committee might be interested in. Something along those lines.
Okay, so that wouldn't be
different understanding.
Sustainability coordinator coming.
So if it's the Energy Committee, which is sort of falling under the purview of the Planning Department, and they have a grant matching line, do we need it as a separate tracking mechanism? I'm just looking to clean up the.
So our recommendation was to just leave it as a placeholder.
Oh, I understand, yeah.
But because we don't know where Kristen's going to go with this yet. If this all gets approved,
We have
and if we want to parse out and see what's being spent on what, that was the only reason.
That was funded, actually funded out as a
Fair enough.
account,
Can you revise the note
if I remember right. It was a
to
capital
say
reserve.
potential grant matching or something like that, just so we know what it is for future use, instead of do not anticipate.
We have.
Because we know that.
Bob, we have a capital reserve fund that is a renewable energy capital reserve fund, and I think my recollection is that this was set up to be a clearinghouse if we needed to transfer money from that capital reserve fund to the general fund because we had an expense. That's what this would do, essentially, is create an expense line.
Okay.
So that's my recollection, is that we had a grant that was partially funded. I think it was the greenhouse gas emissions grant that.
I just wanted the note or the explanation to reflect exactly what it is, so we're not having the same conversation next year.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
So something along the lines of matches capital reserve fund or something like that?
Just possible grant matching is fine, just that should suffice for old people like me who can't remember from one year to the next.
It only gets worse.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So does anyone want to move the sum of $1?
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then zoning board of adjustment, which is also on page 12, at $4,326, we recommend as this.
Second?
And I move that.
Was there a movement, or she just
Yeah, I'm
recommended?
assuming she's moving it.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Now, I think that takes care of planning, other than CIP, so do we want a new total for the end of that?
Oh, I like that.
For planning and development.
No, we can't, because we have economic development and.
Oh, good point. See? Teamwork, thank you.
Good catch.
Okay, CIP. So, Mr. Chair, you had commented at our last meeting that, you wanted us to touch on them?
Yes.
And that we'd probably go into further discussion?
We
So-
will.
We want a little
further
meat.
discuss.
We want a little meat. So page 9 is the planning board bike and pedestrian master plan.
So many.
The CIP.
9 is CIP.
Oh, my shit.
I know, these new backup beacons sound like something bad's happening, but it's just a truck backup.
Is that what that is? Oh my God, it's all the bird was
I thought it was some like terrible phone ring.
Exactly, I thought I was trying to get out of the building or something, it's just a truck backing up.
Oh, a ringtone.
Yeah, so now I've got to find it, but anyway, okay. So that was deferred, this project was deferred from the 2020 budget.
What page?
9.
Page 9. Yeah, you know what, I've got it as page 9 too, but for the world, I cannot find it. Isn't that weird? Anyway, there it is. While I talk. Okay, so, where was I? $25,000 request was deferred from 2020's budget. Thank you. This is a formal assessments needs. It's part of our master plan language, and this will also help with future grants once this assessment is done, and we recommend that.
So the helping with potential future grants as a grant match, is that the helping? Or what is that?
Provides data that can be referenced in future grant proposals.
Got it.
It gives legitimacy to the request for the grant. If you've done a study that shows that you didn't just say, oh, there's some free money, let's go for it. It's like, no, actually, we've been in the planning and studying stages. My question is, and this is something I learned from Dave, is that about studies, because I always worry about studies, is that if you've got a study, then you need to, and I can support a study as long as there's a plan and funding that you're anticipating to implement whatever came out of that study. So that's, I'm just going to say that up front before we get into all the studies. Not, it's not about this one in particular, but it could be. Is that if you're going to do a study, you do it like for example, let's do one that drives me crazy for any community, a parking study. We need to do a parking study, right? We always need a parking study. Okay, let's do a parking study. But do we have a plan in the money, more so the money, afterwards? Because if you come back and say, you know what, we really need a parking garage. Okay, great. Is there any chance that we're going to have the funds or going to move forward with that? Which will typically comes out of it. You need more parking. You don't do a parking study if you think you have plenty of parking. So I just think it's really important when we think about any of these studies that are going to be proposed. Is there a plan for after the study? And what will come out of that? And are we going to be, as a community, willing to commit the funds to do that? Because nothing I hate more, and I'm sure Dave could agree to, because he's seen studies sitting on a shelf as we do a study, and then nothing comes of it. And if the study would be to go after matching grant funds, well, see, that's something that that's real, that's tangible, it makes sense. But I just wanted to make sure I put my thoughts out there about studies and money for studies, because those add up quick.
An assessment, though, we don't know what our needs are until the assessment's done, and then once the assessment's done, we can look at our needs and then see what's available for grants.
Sort of. Corey?
I think Judy had a
Yeah, I had a question. I know we're not discussing the merits of the issue now, but when we do, one of the questions that I have is, how does this relate to any planning around traffic to and from the train station? Would this be part of alternatives to cars?
Absolutely. It's a town-wide pedestrian and bicycle master plan, essentially is what it is. It looks at alternative transportation, not just simply for recreation, but to actually have people utilize alternative transportation to run day-to-day errands, to go to the store, to go to the, visit the doctor, those sort of things, to give that option as an alternative to vehicles. And obviously, the train station is a part of the town and will be a focus of this and the network, because it just seems like since I've been here, there's been a lot of focus on that. A lot of people, there's the Washington Street right now that's a citizen's petition looking at adding sidewalks on Washington. This will kind of go out to the public. I see this as a public process, basically, is to get input and feedback from the users of the system to identify what projects are important to the town of Exeter, and then create like a plan, and then when that plan's in place, take that, helps identify the priorities, but then it informs, like DPW is doing a project or something, or reconstruction of something. This informs that this sidewalk pedestrian master plan, so they can incorporate those new additional design elements in that, in that project, and also use it as leverage for grants, because it's very important in grants when you write them that they're supported by the public. It's not just supported by the plan, but the plan was created by the public, so it's supported by the public. And you have public buy-in to these projects in advance of, proposing them. That's how I see this.
Okay, thank you.
This being utilized.
Corey?
To Chris's comments, I think I heard that this was part of our bigger master plan was to do a study like this. So that, presumably at some level there's support throughout the town to your comment, like, are we going to have support once we do this? Hopefully, like, that's an indication and a bellwether that we should do this type of thing. And then my second is just a question, maybe when we get to actually talking about this more, is, is there an economy of scale or an efficiency to grouping a bunch of these studies together? Because there doesn't seem like there's a shortage of studies to do out there. Like, if we employ and list one consulting firm to do multiple, do we gain off of that? Just a observation or question. We can talk about it more when we get there. But
well, that would be something to consider.
Kathy,
that question.
Well, absolutely. Definitely.
I don't know who was first, so I'll.
It just depends whether we slid into the CIP item or not. That's I just have comments when we get to that. That's all.
All right, Kathy.
I like Corey's idea of, the next one is complete streets. Complete streets talks about multimodal transportation. So why can't we make this and I see, Dave, I understand Chris's concept of what's behind it, what's to come. And in fact, every year, what's to come is new streets being paved. So here's your plan. But I feel like these are both almost this, I know they're not the same thing, but they are together. So why aren't we grouping this together? And then we don't have so many studies. And you're likely to get, I know that your complete streets is next year, but how can we combine these, Dave, and make it work for the town?
Absolutely. I love that idea. These were getting to, 25,000 was getting deferred since I've been here. So I wasn't coming back to propose 100,000. That's basically why.
I think it was mission creep.
Yeah.
That's really what we were you've heard too many studies, let's not do any of them, whereas if we had more of a focused approach and saying, hey, next year we're going to do this and it's going to accommodate this.
I have three things.
I think that's a great idea.
And I could put them all together.
I think that's great.
That's true.
Well, why don't you think about that and what the timing might be?
This kind of plays into the new sustainability director too. So how does that work? How can that work as far as,
car warranty.
Exactly.
I think I got one just
Was it
before
from
you.
New Brunswick?
So how can the sustainability position help in this, the concept of these three, you know?
My only counter to that, and I agree on the combination of those, my only concern, and maybe Dave can speak to this, is 6 or 7 years in a row, I went down and lobbied on behalf of pedestrian and bicycle in Washington for our share of the TEA or whatever the current transportation bill was. And so my experience from that was that often, like things like Complete Streets, which is a pretty bundled approach to completing infrastructure, is treated very separately than getting funds for improvements, right? So Complete Streets is new miles, and other things are improvements. And my fear would be is if we as a recommendation committee bundle those together, and I wouldn't want to see it all go down if it gets cut, or all not be available if we win on Complete Streets and we lose on improvements, or vice versa. So I think there's some value to looking at these as, I think when we're planning as a master plan for our town and things, it makes sense to make sure these things are coordinated. But if we're looking at plans and how do we go get money, we might be getting those monies from different places that don't consider the whole package.
Great point.
So planning is one thing, but implementation may have different aspects.
And studies. So the studies that fund the, or that provide the support for chasing those funds. Sorry.
Anna?
That's a great point. I just want to note that we've had studies on our ballot in the past that failed, that were not approved by voters because they were a significant dollar amount. So lumping these things together might cause all three of your proposed studies to fail.
Well, I think what we're hearing here is that we'd like you, between now and November, at least to think about a strategy, because like it or not, small dollars or not, there is sort of a studies aversion with all the other stuff we have going on, facilities that we're, trying to sink our teeth into. So it'd be worth ruminating on in the next month or so.
Studies are difficult to pass as warrant articles. I mean, we've had ballots where everything has sailed through relatively calmly, but studies are always
so maybe they need to be rebranded,
not a negative vote.
Rebranded somehow, and is a master plan amendment, if you will. It's been 4 years, blah blah blah. Just something to think about.
Well, he has changed the names, and I compliment you on that, because that's what I've always said too, is that don't call it a study. So the Complete Streets study needs a new name, but the bike and pedestrian is a master plan. So
I think the concept, it's like a lot of things in town. They are worthy projects. Maybe they just need their time, but also we'd like a little more feedback from you on maybe a different way to package it.
Well, also, I think on that way, if you're trying to get something, people will buy into, like you said, we have an aversion study. I only have aversion study because if there's no follow-up to it, because then I just think you're throwing $25,000 away. But I think if you're trying to get if it's a good study, I'm using that word, we'll call it something else hopefully soon, is that something in there needs to tell the people clearly that this will lead to something that you need and want. Like this process will help facilitate getting grants for projects, things like that.
Or how streets are planned, or
But if you put something in there that gives people an understanding, if we do this will help us get grants to actually do the project.
Right.
So I think maybe if that's in there and highlighted, I mean, I know that always makes me happy. Ooh, this could get us grants? Yeah, do it, because grants are big dollars. A $25,000 study that could lead to a $200,000 grant for that project for sidewalks is a good thing. But if you don't know, if it's not clearly put in here that this could lead to a sizable grant by doing this, it's easy to say, no, we don't need the study.
Ton?
I think we're generally all in agreement, so, and I am too. But a couple of things just for the record. Well, first of all, I'd say bike and pedestrian master plan is nice and specific, and I think is more likely to get buy-in from people who care about biking and walking, which I hope there are a lot of people that do. So I think that speaks to some of the things that were said. So in a way, it was rebranded, and I think that's good. And I think you're going to get more buy-in on that than you will on complete street studies, which I think is maybe not going to have as much of a, natural constituency. So I think that's a really good point, Chris. A couple of questions just for the records. Has this been done in recent years that you know of or not?
Here?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Because it's certainly been talked about for a long, long time. The issue has been batted around for a long time. So for the record, it hasn't been...
There was a citizens petition too, a few years back.
There have been some citizen petitions, but it hasn't been done. So that's number one. Number two, it's a requirement for the master plan?
It's mentioned in the master plan to pursue this, yes.
But is it a requirement?
It's an action and agenda item. It's an action and item. It is.
Within the
2018 adopted master plan. This is an action item agenda to do this.
And I think you answered my next question. Our master plan is dated 2018.
18, yes.
And we have sort of a rolling effort going, or are we doing every 10 years?
It depends on when it's needed. The state recommends every 5 to 10 years, ish. It's just a matter of how much we have done. I've been looking at it. We got quite a few of the action items. We're working on them now, so it might be closer to the 5 than 10. But we haven't made that decision at this point.
That actually might be helpful information, is keeping a tally of what we've done with our master plan, because a lot of, to Chris's points, we'll do these studies and then they go into the ether, and it'd be nice to remind people, certainly people helping to write the checks, as to what we've actually done.
I've forgotten that one.
That's a great idea.
My question was that, it was if it's part of the master plan, then that's part of the goal as well, keeping the master plan, sticking with the master plan. So I think that's important in and of itself, which is kind of mentioned in your description, but I just thought I like stating things that are obvious.
Corey?
Just a final thought, back to our conversation last Wednesday night about thinking big picture and long-term and, prioritizing with our limited dollars. If complete streets is a good idea and we have a big project like Portsmouth Ave coming up someday, then wouldn't it be good to not do things, thinking fully about what we should be doing for a future major causeway. So I think, the rebranding may be important, but I think people thinking about it a little bit differently as well. Because like we said, we only have so many dollars to do things with, so let's do it right the first time.
Dave, are you familiar with any other communities that have done a complete streets and that, were successful that you could mention, or maybe not, maybe?
Portsmouth has done a few and implemented. They have a complete streets policy and have actually done a couple projects. Port Street is one of them. They've done a couple of projects down there.
So Islington Street isn't necessarily... Islington Street, the revamp that they've done through there isn't necessarily...
I haven't been following that project closely, but it was definitely complete streets motivated. I just watched the construction.
Yeah.
But that's challenge. Sometimes it's challenging. That's what the study does too, or plan.
It would weed out the undesired changes.
And it looks like where it's feasible and where it isn't.
Right.
Because generally complete streets, take up more right of way than you have, and there's some streets like Islington Street where the houses are right on the, edge of the right of way, so there's limited, opportunities for what you can do, and you have to look at, different design elements, whereas some places are really ripe for it, that you could implement a full complete streets and so forth.
That was beautiful.
That's kind of what this study, part of that plan would do. And just so I can just say what, it absolutely does help support grants. I don't want to belabor this too much, but what it really does is it goes through a public process to identify projects that the public, that the residents in the community and the users of the system want, and that helps me decide what grant projects to pursue. Because if I don't have anything like a process to pursue, I'm kind of just making decisions myself of what would benefit the community. But having this type of plan that's created from the community gives me the ideas to pursue funding for, and that already has public buy-in. So that's just how to package this and what it does for me. That's what these do for me.
Yeah, I think my final comment on that would be that, if there are theoretically impending hard infrastructure bills in front of Congress that if anything passes, maybe those, then there could be funds available for projects coming up. And living in a town as thoughtful as our town, where we actually have a couple of public schools you cannot ride a bike or walk to, that we have a population that has 35% of eligible drivers do not drive, they can't or don't drive. There's a lot of people we need to think about besides people behind the wheel, and this is a great opportunity to marry impending funds with an opportunity to look at our master plan and implement these things. And as far as learning about what other towns have been successful with complete streets, there is a funded resource by the Pedestrian Walk Alliance and a bunch of different industry things called People for Bikes. You can go there and you can actually find some example communities online that have had successful complete streets projects. So.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, well, the next CIP item is the Conservation Committee, the Rains Barn improvement, and that is on page 12. And Kristen Murphy is back, and thank you. I know you wanted to be here for the whole discussion, but we were moving along so quickly on the other part, so thank you for trying. So the request in the CIP is for $249,600. The actual request would be for $100,000. The idea is the Conservation Commission would commit to $50,000 of their funds and $100,000 for the L-CHIP grant that's available. This is the project that I was kind of touching on earlier, where, correct me if I'm wrong on the history of this, that there was a request or an application for an L-CHIP for the barn, for improvements. And although we didn't make that one, they've been really great working with you on how to improve our chances of getting it, and you've gotten great feedback. So
yeah, definitely. So the nice thing about L-CHIP grants, even though a lot of applications and the application process is pretty tough, the nice thing about it is when you're not successful, they have a meeting with you afterwards and go through the areas of weak points in your application. And so for us, what we didn't sell the first time was the vision and the use of the property, and so we spent a lot of time really highlighting how we have been using that property and the potential to grow that use. So I think we have a pretty strong application this year. The other thing that's good about this year is typically the amount of applications for this grant significantly overwhelm the amount of funding available. This year, I think it's $5 million is available in funding, and there's $6 million in applications. And so that's a really good, I mean, it's not fully funded, but that's a really good ratio for us to be applying just by the luck of the draw. Last year, it was, I think they had half of what the applications they received, half the money for the applications they received.
Thank you.
Well, go ahead, Corey.
Sure.
Yeah.
Two things. One, so the warrant would be for 100 or for the 249? I forget if we have to do the whole thing.
100.
The 100, okay.
But, well, I shouldn't say that. My understanding is it would be for 100 with the understanding that
we would get that,
we would only do it if the L-CHIP grant is granted.
Right. And then I wondered if the Facilities Committee had chimed in on this project at all, or if you've talked to them, or?
Yeah, we did get a letter of support from the Facilities Committee for this project.
I just had a quick question. A few years ago, when we did the first go-round, the request was 214. It looks like the only real difference is the contingencies that have been put in. Is that correct?
There's a bit of a difference in the cost of materials for the clapboard and the siding and things of that nature. So cost has gone up. Although they're similar in numbers, we hired a different contractor this time to put together our repair plan, who has been successful with L-CHIP in the past. He is working with Southeast Land Trust right now on the Burley Farm. He has a really strong track record of keeping the historical design in mind as he's doing repairs, and he had a different approach for how to stabilize the foundation.
Okay.
So that cost was lower, but overall it ended up kind of balancing out.
Okay, so that was coincidence that they're in the mid-200s. Okay. Well, great. Well, hopefully things work out on the grant.
Fingers crossed.
Anything else?
For Kristen, thank you. That's it for
Excellent.
CIP, the roll item.
Well, you can stay up there because I think you're next anyway, right? You and Doug?
No, it's Doug. You're next.
Come on down.
Mr. Eastman, our building inspector, that's on page 11.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Mr. Eastman, how are we doing?
I hope Kristen budgeted some money for building permits for Rains Barn.
Nope.
Get
her, that's up to you, Doug.
We got a
problem.
There's a revenue
Luckily, they're
stream.
right next to each other and office-wise, so
Yeah.
they can work,
Yeah.
I'm sure they
work
can
that
work
out
Or wrestle
together.
for
I'm sure
it.
she'll be here all the time, well, hopefully.
Revenue is not a problem with us, that's for sure.
So our subcommittee, again, would like to congratulate Doug. He has a smartphone.
Oh.
And
Wait, I want to see Doug use it. I'm going to send you. Turn it on.
So now you get to walk around with a piece of toast in your wallet, in your
Yeah, I
pocket.
know, it's like having a laptop in my
Exactly.
pocket, oh my God.
Did you say a
Open
piece
it
of toast?
Yeah, I don't get it.
That's what they used to say
Face
about the
recognition to
Blackberries. It's like
open it
walking
up.
around with a
So
piece of
don't any-
toast.
So you guys can't borrow it. but you'll get it.
Your phone's more advanced than my phone.
Yeah, and yeah, it works pretty cool.
What's the cell phone number?
603.
So we can text you now.
Okay, so.
I got your number.
Text you.
And the only other note
Okay, I'm gonna text
I
you
wanted
now.
to make is 55308. This is on page 11. And it's the bottom of page 11, and it's the travel expenses at 1,000, almost lunchtime. It's not spent out at all because of a retirement. That position has remained unfilled at this point, but we didn't want to cut that in anticipation of being filled, yeah. So we recommend the inspections and code enforcement budget as is.
And is that going to be filled this year, you think, or next year?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, every time I come very close, it kind of falls apart.
That's the plan.
I want benefits,
Yeah.
8-hour-a-week job,
Yes.
Pension, union representation.
The entitlement society. Yes.
How much vacation do I get?
I'm dealing with people that are already retired, and they're finding that they really enjoy retirement. I think they're
So if you want me, you're going to pay for me.
There's one in the room now, I think so.
No.
Yeah? Jeez. All right.
But Judy looks better than you or I, so we think she's younger.
Do you want Doug to talk about building permits for a little bit? Just in case
Yeah.
revenue?
We would love
Oh,
that.
boy, yeah, building, it's since the pandemic, it's been just incredible, the amount of work that's taken place in town. People are, staying home, saving money, but they're spending money on their homes now. It's just swimming pools, additions, swimming pools.
Come to my neighborhood. We've got every contractor in like the
I
Greater
have been to
Seacoast
your
area
neighborhood.
is off of either Cullen Way or Tamarin right now.
Yeah. So, it's, money is pretty inexpensive to borrow. We're getting a lot of refinancing, because we have to do letters of conformance on properties for people. And, our building permits this year are 664, which is the same as last year at this time. Our revenues are doubled. We've gone from 180,000 last year to almost 375 this year. And estimated cost of construction is at $55 million right now.
Wow,
I mean,
more taxes coming.
Pardon me?
More taxes coming.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would assume that. Well, we have Phillips Exeter, a lot of that is Phillips Exeter, Exeter Hospital. We have some big projects right now that are under construction. And we have subdivisions that are being proposed. They're before the planning board. Some of them have been approved, but for one reason or another, just kind of like hanging out there. And I don't I don't have any answer for that, but it's busy. It's good.
Do we do inspections just as a matter of course, especially with commercial properties, or just if they ask us, like if there's a building permit pulled or anything like that?
Only if there's a building permit will we act to an inspection, unless it's like an emergency situation. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but we don't do home inspections or building inspections.
I was thinking more of the commercial end of things, if we're, just sort of keeping tabs on things since there's not that huge a commercial base.
Yeah, well, we do, if they're under construction or there's a permit, then absolutely.
Okay.
So things are good in the building department, so thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions for Doug?
That's all we have for our subcommittee.
Doreen, benefits?
Doug's not allowed to retire, by the way. Let's vote. Doug, not allowed to retire? Not allowed.
You and Barb, by the way.
Yes,
And Barb too.
Yeah, and Barb. Barb is, I'll tell you, Barb is so important to this department and planning department. She is the key.
Wow.
And I think you all know that. She is just so important.
Go ahead,
Does such
Doreen.
a great job.
Yeah. Awesome. Hats off.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're lucky to have some really good people.
Doreen?
Yep, the new benefits total is $79,756.
You would change.
So moved. No, wait a minute, that's the wrong column.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. I got off
Excuse me,
track here.
Doreen.
Thanks a lot.
79,000. That's not good.
No, went up even more, Doug, so. 80,355.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And the new inspection and code enforcement total is $279,695. And again, that's 279,695.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Doug.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Doug.
And next up is Darren Wenham, Economic Development Director.
All right, speak slow, dear. I have to run to the bathroom.
Wait so long. Okay, so we recommend as a subcommittee, that proposal as is. This year, Darren will hopefully, nothing will get in the way this time, right? To complete a certificate program that we've supported in the past, that it was not able to occur because of COVID.
Does that mean you're uncertified?
Yeah. Sorry.
Still certified.
Certifiable, yeah.
I was gonna say, are you?
You're certifiable, yeah.
You're the doctor.
So what is this certification? Just, I don't know.
It's the University of Oklahoma. It's an economic development certification. I believe it's the only university that has any economic development certification. And so I've taken all the classes online, and now I just want to get the last bit of it out of the way. I was supposed to go on 2020, had the approval and all that, and then of course COVID hit. So if we can afford it, I'd like to go now. Took a few things out of the budget to accommodate it. So.
Any questions for Darren? Comments from the subcommittee?
No, we've made them.
Excellent. I will entertain a motion. New benefits, Doreen?
Yes, new benefits is $50,822.
And I will,
Were we voting on that?
we are not.
No, I think we're just getting the number.
We are. You're right.
Okay. And
Thanks for keeping me on track.
Sorry, I couldn't remember, it was just scary.
And the total for economic development is $153,283. Again, that's $153,283.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Darren.
Thank you, guys.
Piece of cake. Good luck in your travels out to Norman.
Appreciate it.
Well, hats off to Darren and his efforts. This used to be a highly contested position, and the budget was scrutinized, and it's just voted through as a matter of fact that it's an important part of government function here.
I thank you, Judy, for, and Mr. Chair, good?
Ton, yeah, go for it.
You're right, because, we talked earlier about sort of measurables and deliverables, and obviously, economic development comes to mind because we had those battles, and I certainly have thought about it over the years since then. But I think, Russ, didn't we bat around like, what was it, 70-something million in a TIF?
78, I believe it's 78 or 71.
Millions of dollars of
enhanced value.
Enhanced value in the TIF, which I think can be, to a large extent, maybe attributed to the efforts such as this. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think putting somebody in charge of being a point person for the TIF district and, of course, town-wide, and specifically the TIF has been a great win for the town. I don't think there's any question about that. Having somebody continually available to work with the property owners and the developers and sort of meeting the two together and working to get properties developed has been really a boon for us there.
And I'll be honest with you, I was skeptical about that early on, particularly the second or third year, about that model of employing an economic development director. And I think it was actually Chris who spoke up at a deliberative session about different models in different towns as to how to tackle that issue, which really opened, and I didn't know who Chris was at the time. Too bad he's not here right now, but it really opened my eyes to that. And Chris, we're talking about the position of economic development director, and I'm just bloviating about
Again?
about deliverables on that. I think it was you that spoke at a deliberative session. God, it's got to be at least 7 or 8 years ago, as we were deliberating this very position, and I struggled with it in my head, and I remember questioning, the wisdom of hiring someone for a substantial sum of money to make a full-time position, and I think I've come around to the point of view that was a good decision. It's taken me about 10 years, but here I am.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how long Darren's been here.
2014.
Sorry?
Darren came here in 2014.
14, okay, 7 years. And no, I'm being somewhat flippant, but I think it's borne out particularly with things like the TIF. So stating the obvious, but just want to say it out loud.
Yeah, and the thing is too, economic development is like, what is that? When I first moved into that world, I was like, what exactly do we do? And then everywhere I went, anytime I talked to somebody about what I had said my title, they just went, oh, okay. And if they really wanted to, they say, what is that? And but it's such a broad position. And it touches on so many industries. I mean, I would work with folks at the Career Tech Center to try and, maybe we get internships set up with the local businesses, because local businesses are starving for employees, and then you're working with housing, because if there's no housing, and you got to promote housing so that there's housing and affordable housing for your employees, and you're working with big stuff like, meat and potatoes economic development, because things like TIF. TIF is huge, and it's done something really good for Epping Road, and I was so thrilled for that. And then other tax incentives. Somebody's got to be working with that and making sure that these tax incentives for businesses are going out there, and because we've got to help our businesses so they can stay viable and want to stay here. So it's bringing in new business, it's retention is a huge part of it, because it's hard to get one in, but losing one that's much worse. So
I think in our case, you can't underestimate or state how much the person we put in that position leveraged the spot too. We made a positioning, but he really he really colored it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we replaced what was more or less a vacuum with a very, very effective presence.
Yeah.
As far as being able to be a point person, as Darren will say, morning, noon, and night, right? So he'll take a call anytime from anybody about any particular issue dealing with business, and I think that speaks very well of our approach and our desire to help businesses, and which is an important part of a thriving community. So we're glad to have that position in place.
And if you don't have that position, then it gets parsed out to the town manager and planning, and then they're taking it, and they just don't have the ability and the time to give it what it needs. So, and again, it's just kind of like you keep spreading everybody a little bit thinner and a little bit thinner, so.
Even with the Epping Road TIF, I mean, things change every day on that. There's always a new plan coming in.
Yep.
There's somebody interested in doing something on Epping Road, and
They need a point person.
Just having that point person to be able to sit down with somebody for a couple of hours and go through a detailed plan or, a business plan, or talk to a broker about something that may be happening on Epping Road and trying to facilitate something is really definitely deserves full-time presence on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
So.
It's a very big deal, and it's brought in some great changes for Epping Road, and I just think that in itself is.
Russ, since Darren left, I hope that you'll pass along these positive remarks of support to Darren, so he understands he has this committee's full support.
Great, thank you.
It was at 10:55 on the recording.
Yeah, and if I could just follow up with what Christine had said about housing, on the Housing Advisory Committee, Darren has, in January, came to speak to our advisory committee and has taken us down a path that we had not, it wasn't part of our goal, but it really opened up conversations with local businesses and things like that on the need for workforce housing and things that we've been pursuing all year, and had some really interesting conversations with our businesses, not only our local, in town, but regional, and it was Darren that initiated that conversation. So.
And I can tell you in Durham, real quick, that it's the housing and the workforce is so desperate that, and it was a small thing, but it's significant. One of the business owners actually built a building with little like micro units in it. So his staff would have an affordable place to live and literally be able to walk to work, and it's huge. That's the way communities need to be thinking, and that's really tied in. There it is, housing and economic development. Here we have a company that wanted to expand and build a third building, and he goes, I can't. He goes, I'm hanging on to my people barely as it is, and so he was actually got permission to build a small mini apartment complex on his land, where there was maybe 7 units, and then a training center there. So that's a great way to be going forward.
Yeah. One of those projects is in Exeter. They're Exeter residents, and they did come to watch the Housing Advisory Committee stuff.
And Nancy, you should put a plug in while you have everyone up about our January.
Well, okay, so the details aren't specified, sorry, Mr. Chair.
We are so far ahead of schedule.
I know,
Nancy.
good.
You can blabber on
We
for hours.
so our January conversation that began after each meeting, we were meeting once a month, we were at twice a month right now, but only because of the agenda and things like that, until the January roundtable. Darren and another person, Sarah Reitzman, who is the director of, from our Workforce Housing
Coalition,
that's the other part, have been working on the agenda. So after each meeting, they started in February, and we had a group of Exeter businesses. Then we had another group of Exeter businesses to try to make sure we were touching on every type of business. And after every meeting, we had a discussion on where we wanted to go to next. So we never went into these meetings with any preconceived idea of where we were going. It was asking our business owners to educate us. And then from that information, we went to the next level. We decided on where we wanted to go. Christine was part of one of our conversations for Durham. because we heard from economic development directors in our region or our area also. It's been a fascinating process. So we will be having I reserved the town hall for January 22nd. It's a Friday. The hours are all day right now, but we're going to try to cut that down a little bit. But stay tuned. We'll announce it as we go.
Excellent.
And we'll hear what happens when workforce housing is not available from Pam when she talks about the welfare budget and needs.
Since Andy is so close and working, I'd like to just take care of some of the smaller items so that we can get those done before lunch. And it looks like we're in danger of actually finishing up before lunch. So hopefully
We'll only have
everyone,
Andy left, yeah.
hopefully everyone will enjoy our time together, even if we do finish up around lunch.
We still need to do the select board.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, okay, those ones.
Those are the small
Oh,
ones I'm doing.
I mentioned
And
Andy.
thank you, Laura, for articulating.
To continue to wait till after lunch for Andy? Is that-
No, we're going to do these little ones, bring in Andy, and probably get to Doreen and Laura, and we'll be done, I think, by, even if we're at 12:15. I think
Okay.
things will go pretty fast, so.
Oh, he's more optimistic than I am, yes.
I'll be faster than Andy, though.
So we need to.
So let's start with Select Board on page 1.
Okay. So we recommend that budget as requested at $20,636.
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is a motion.
Second? I'll second it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Now, Ton would ask, what are the deliverables from the
That's why we
select
did it
board?
with him out of the room. Transportation on page 3. It's a placeholder.
Placeholder at $1, so I move to recommend $1 placeholder for transportation.
Second.
Thank you, Kathy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And legal, also on page 3, subcommittee, and I move for $80,000 for that budget.
Second.
Do we have a year-to-date spend on that?
I do. I thought I did. Oh, sorry, I'm in tax.
That's all right.
I'm just trying to find it quick.
I guess it only matters if it's changed.
Okay, there we go. All right. The year-to-date spending through the first half of this month is $61,941.
Is that I'm sorry, as of 10/1?
No, through last Friday. Is that 10/15?
15.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the legal budget of $80,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Did you have any questions?
No, I just had to answer a phone call, so I wasn't part of the discussion.
Okay.
Just being legalistic.
Just didn't want to.
All right, page 4, trustee of trust funds.
So much money.
Anybody want to speak to that? Maybe you, Russ?
Just to say that the trustees of trust funds are in charge of our capital reserve funds by law, so they exist by statute, and the chairperson is paid a stipend of $828.
I will move the amount of $891.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'll speed up. That is it.
There's debt service as well.
Is that way in the back?
Yes.
Page 30.
Yes.
Yeah, and the miscellaneous.
we didn't do treasurer yet.
Well, that's under finance. I'm doing all the finance
Yeah,
stuff
no,
again.
you're right, I'm thinking out loud, my apologies, thank you.
You want to say anything at all on debt service?
About
that
debt
isn't
service?
self-explanatory?
Well, and again, just to reiterate that, we have one issue falling off in '22. It's the Great Dam study from 2008, back when we were debating what we were going to do about the Great Dam. And we are having one issue come online, and that's the Salem Street Utility Improvements Project. So there's a net, and then we have some decreases in the interest portion of the debt service that deal with maturing bonds. And we have an additional interest payment in the debt service, which is also Salem Street. So the net of all of that results in an $11,287 increase, or 0.8% for that budget.
A quick question, not to belabor this too much, but it looks like on the debt service, which I sort of always assumed was fairly flat, and then interest would go down, but, some of these, most of them are flat, but some of them change a little bit. Was that a refinancing, or just part of the note that, like for instance, the String Bridge has been 65 and now it's 60. Is that just sort of an end of term adjustment thing? Or?
It's declining interest, so as you're paying off principal, basically you're paying less in interest each year.
But the debt service, or the debt service is.
Even the principal payments?
The principal, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sometimes the last few drop down.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then same thing on the library, that's adjusted as well, I'm assuming part of the note? Because it was just such a specific number when it started, and now it's up to 255.
Right.
So
Yeah.
same thing, just terms of the note, it was going to be one thing to start, and then it changed.
The sequence of payments.
Got it. Okay, so debt service total is $1,385,502. I will move that amount.
And I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Miscellaneous, the next item. Somewhat self-explanatory in its vagueness. I will move the amount of $4.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And vehicle replacement. I would like to leave that until after, because some of these items are part of discussions with departments, specifically police. And we can discuss all of that at that time. Is that okay with you, Judy? Because I think we want to talk about those vehicles. Cemeteries. I will move the amount of $1.
I'll second.
It's a grave expense.
Discussions.
Cemetery has an E, not an A.
Thank you. I told
Respect the flag.
Very good. Thank you, Tom.
Something I've been paying attention to lately.
Yeah, there you go. All those in favor of the cemeteries budget as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Is that something you can speak to, Russ, that AA tracking vehicle data?
Yeah, that's the GPS system that we have in our town vehicles.
Where are you now?
On capital outlay. Can you just give us that's what it is, there's no.
Yeah, it's a subscription, so it's what we pay. We pay on a monthly basis to have the GPS monitoring systems in the town vehicles. And we use it to track vehicles. We can do pretty much what we need to do with it. We track it, vehicles going out of town, coming into town, vehicle use statistics, how much a particular vehicle is being used and so forth.
And that's all vehicles in town, that's why it's got a separate.
We don't have GPS units in all of the vehicles yet, but we have them in quite a few. I would say 20 to 25 at this point.
That's a relatively new item for us, right? We did that a few years ago.
Yeah, it's been a few years now into the program.
How does the data get used on a regular basis for operations? I mean, you look at it, or is it departments, or?
Both.
Yeah.
Both, yeah.
Yeah. And anything interesting that you can share come out of it, or not necessarily?
No, most of it's anecdotal. I think part of the value of it is if we have an accident, we can place a vehicle at a particular location too, so it helps us with our insurance, which makes sense.
Does insurance look at that as a potential credit when they're evaluating premium, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily, because we're in a pooled insurance program. A lot of what we do is by pooling, so it doesn't really reach that level. But they certainly support us having it, and they think it's a good tool for us to have to use when claims come up.
And I imagine you can respond to resident questions and complaints. Recently, I had a neighbor who said, those public works guys are over at the pumping station all day long. All they do is hang out there all day long. And I said, if you have a concern, just contact the town manager's office, because he tracks those vehicles and where they are, and he can help you with that.
We can figure out if a vehicle's parked at a location in town. We can certainly look into it. If it's stationary for 4 hours, we can be able to feed back to people what is happening at that pump station.
Tom?
Yeah, relative to that, because this was, pretty extensively discussed 2, 3, 4 years ago or so, right? Any other tangibles about it? Because Russ, I'm not hearing like a ringing endorsement for this product right now. So I'm just curious about the tangibles of this thing. I thought there was a discussion about vehicle management and lease, etc. That was part of the justification for this expenditure a few years back. So not to beat a dead horse on it, on an old item, but, I wouldn't mind a few more tangibles.
Yeah, I mean, other than, like I said, being able to use it as a tracker and for our employees' sake, and we can also, like I said, look at how many runs a vehicle makes in a given week or 6 months to a year. And I think we're still in the thought process of thinking about, as our vehicle replacement program matures and we get into those conversations, this gives us another tool in the toolbox to evaluate vehicle replacements. So I think it's a valuable tool from that aspect for short money.
I think what Todd is getting at is it's a valuable tool, but are you using the valuable tool? And that's,
right.
Every year it's kind of like the Exeter app, which is no longer, but I harp on this every year too, Tom.
I think it's one of those things too, where, from my perspective, I couldn't imagine managing a fleet of vehicles that are in the hands of a lot of different individuals without it. And I think it's one of those things that you don't know you need it until you need it. And looking forward, when you start to examine patterns in driving and things like that, when we do look at vehicle replacement and stuff like that, I think it's going to be an invaluable tool. We'll learn a lot about, mileage, left turns versus right turns, which mean a lot for idling and environmental cause and things like that. There's a lot of data that could be mined from this. So I think it's one of those things that, I couldn't imagine in 2021, 2022, and moving forward, not having this ability to look where our vehicles are going, what they're doing, how long they're running, how fast they're going, where they've been, just to help guide us.
So Melissa just reminded me, and I think it's good to know this, that in the Parks Department, as an example, our Parks and Recreation Director uses the program to enhance the route management of the parks people. So when we're deploying our staff day to day, he can actually look at where they're moving and where they're going, and use this as a tool to make route optimization part of their program and hopefully get more efficiency out of the work product.
And how long is the data stored? Like how long, we have historical, obviously, we can go back and look at it, right?
Yeah.
Is it for a year or?
I think it goes back longer than that.
Nothing, yeah.
Yeah, since the inception of the unit.
I would, Bob?
Yeah.
I would hope that a service such as this then, because it's probably web-based, it's probably something remote, it's probably not data that we have
On a
in-house,
server.
I'm going to guess. But I would hope that we have access to this data, back for a while, going back and going forward for a while. Given that some products tend to be transient.
Yeah, and this is web-based, and we do have access to the data, so.
Excellent. Okay, I will move the capital outlay total of $4,251.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Did we do that number right?
What'd you say?
I have capital outlay,
Oh, yeah.
257.
That's general government.
That's general government.
No, that's thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's-
I definitely need food. but
You were up
we're gonna keep
you were
going.
up too
We're
late
good.
last night, Nancy. It's
We're
okay.
talking about 4251,
Yes,
right?
we got it.
The
We got
short
it.
answer is
Yes.
Yes, I
Sorry,
did.
my apologies. Okay.
I had the same thing.
okay. Next page, page 32, payroll, taxes, and benefits. Does I'm assuming the health insurance reserve changes?
Yes, that's
Is
now
that-
zero.
That would be zero.
Yeah, and then we had a change in the buyout line. Did you want just the total, or do you want every?
The change would be great.
Okay. It changed to 156,457.
What line are we talking?
Oh, I'm sorry, talking about
52,140.
52,140 within payroll, taxes, and benefits.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, one more time, number 150.
Sure, 156,457 for insurance buyout. And that is I guess we're setting FICA, Medicare, and retirement to $1 each.
Okay.
Okay, and then the new total there is 157,681. And that's been lowered because of the reserves being taken out. We've allocated it up
Put in
to
each department.
departments,
Right.
correct.
I'm sorry, Doreen, can you be, on which line is that?
Oh, sure. The total
157?
line for payroll, taxes, and benefits.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, is 157,681.
Because the reserve is zeroed out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move that number.
Thank you.
Second.
Second.
Further comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye for 157,681.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Count me as an aye, I didn't say it. Aye.
Unemployment,
That one is changed to 2416.
Make a motion?
Corey,
Second.
second. Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And workers' comp,
Is 250,370, and that's 250,370.
been moved. Second? I will second it. All those in favor of the workers' compensation total of $250,370 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And insurance.
Okay, the insurance total is now 72,746.
So moved.
Second.
And is there a
Yeah, there's a
an
total.
explanation for that?
Oh, that it went up. We got the bills for next year.
Got it. So those were estimates.
There you go.
5% increase year over year.
Never goes down.
Getting those.
Yeah, those are actual bills.
Thank you. Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor of a budget of $72,746 for insurance signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
And the total benefits and taxes is 483,213. Again, that's 483,213.
Okay, so moved.
Well, do we need to move that since we've moved all the justicial parts? I guess we go through this every
Okay.
year. That's fine.
I can withdraw it.
Nancy? No, that's fine. Did you second it, Nancy?
Yeah,
Did you-
I second it, yeah.
All those in favor of a total benefits and taxes number $483,213, $483,213, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Opposed? Thank you. And...
Yeah, can I just want to
Sure.
clarify, because my note's lacking, it could be. Did we do a total planning and development number? Because we did, I didn't write it down. I don't have it that we have a total or voted on, because we were waiting for Doug and Darren.
Right, we did not.
And what page is that?
The bottom of page 13.
Okay. The total planning and development total is $722,208, and again, that is 722,208.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of that budget signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And warrant articles and other. On page 33, any, oh, those are, no, we're not going to vote on those quite yet. Those are CIP. Sorry.
According to my list, we just have finance and IT.
IT, right.
And I don't know if anybody.
And welfare?
We don't, that's Christine.
Oh, well,
That's
sorry,
got
that's
us
a
bogged
different
down
night.
one other year. I'm staying away
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah, sorry though.
Let me just see if I can.
If he's not ready, we'll just
We'll
we'll
go
do
right
finance.
with Doreen, but I'm still.
Doreen probably would take less time than Andy.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's what she claims.
Well,
Well, I don't know.
it doesn't matter.
Depends on the questions.
We have plenty of time. Time is not an issue.
Because Andy's a little more complicated than Doreen.
This was 266,
Thank
right?
you.
That's my record.
How would you find it?
But it was 266
We're
gross.
going to power through the whole thing?
Mark, I can assure you, it never goes like this. We're usually having these discussions at about 3 o'clock.
Slightly stunned.
And everybody's looking at their watch saying, let's move on. So you must be our lucky charm.
Last year in Zoom, it really helped us to, I think,
Yeah, be
focus.
short and sweet.
Yeah.
Right. You're right about that.
I hope it will continue this way. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be the experienced folks. Yeah. Mr. Swanson, how we doing?
We're doing wonderfully.
Nice. You looked so well groomed this year. In years past, you've been like, oh my God, there's so much going on.
I wanted to give
You look
a
so
nice,
calm and
I wanted to
collected.
do a nice last impression.
Oh, my. We also want to introduce Steve Bailey, who is our new network administrator.
Hey, everyone.
Steve, how are you?
Welcome.
I had the great pleasure of working with Steve a few years back for a couple of years with my firm, so I think we're going to be well served by having him on the team.
Did not know that. Wow. And I'll second that, having worked with him now for several months.
Okay. So, subcommittee. Who's on this?
Favorite topic.
Page 3.
So as you all know, these numbers are bigger because Andy and his department service all of our other departments. Some of the increases are commensurate with staffing changes and increases with compliance and with ongoing overhaul, maintenance, and upgrade of of our IT equipment and software. So line 55048, software. This was printed before we confirmed the number. The actual number is 30,400.
And that's from your department? That was an actual based on?
That's.
Yes. It's never what's on the one I have. I must have the most recent one, but
Is
we
that?
have this one.
I am looking at the most
Here it
recent
is.
number right, Nancy.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
It's this. That is the number we have.
Okay.
And this is basically it's the summary of what your report articulates.
Yes.
Of what is included in that.
We have a line-by-line summary.
There is one new big purchase on that, and it's for $14,200. And so that's not an ongoing cost. It's a double the ongoing cost because the first year you have to pay for both the equipment and the setup, and after that it drops to half of what it says there. 14, so it's $7,100.
Anna, can you give that number one more time, the 30?
30,400.
Yeah.
I know it's in your write-up somewhere, but I'm not.
It's in the narrative, I think, yeah.
It's in the narrative and their report.
Right. Oh, it's in.
Will that help?
Thank you.
So the 7,200 is included in that?
Yes.
The Aristotle?
Yes. So it's both set up for the first year and the first year maintenance contract, right? Did I get that right?
Yes,
Hardware.
it's the first year, it's double the price because they supply the equipment and the setup. And then it goes back to the per, it's really a per device charge.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to change line item 55048 to $30,400.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Proceed, Nance, or Anna?
So 55058, contracting services. This is for outside service recommended per the IT audit for penetration testing.
Oh, we have some good news for you on that.
Oh.
Always love good news.
You want to give the good news, Steve?
Yeah, he's the new guy.
Oh, sure. After doing some security research, I stumbled upon a Homeland Security benefit for local government, and they will, for free for local governments, provide us with penetration testing, website scanning, and some internal vulnerability scanning. So we can take the 5,000 right off the top.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Thought you'd like that.
So that means that the proposed budget item line is 8,000?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Wow.
I will move that unless we want to that line.
Does anybody have any questions on that detail?
With all, well, it sounds great, but with all due respect, it's also the federal government. Is it trustworthy? Can we, is it?
Well, they're subcontractors in Pyongyang, so.
Well,
It was my thought exactly.
You're picking up what I'm putting down, yeah,
It looks
exactly.
legit.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm putting my faith in these guys.
Exactly.
Outside this
Put a faith
room.
in the new guy.
Yeah.
There you go.
All on you, buddy.
All right, that's great news. And the $3,000 reduction, I mean, that's.
5,000.
No, but the
Oh, the original
$3,000
addition,
from
yes.
last year,
Right.
which was the original, is that acceptable? I mean, what was
So
for
the 8,000 that we left in there is acceptable. We don't know who we're going to give it to. If you look here, we have, last year we had 16,000. We haven't even expended it yet, but we have it all ready to be PO'd for certain things, projects, which I actually have a list of. The guy that used to do that for us, his company, was severely impacted by COVID, and his business model got severely spun around by COVID. And while I'm coming in tomorrow to work with him all day, he has not been here that much this year, very little. So we can cut him in half, partly because I have Steve here. You know, but I used to have to bring him in because we just needed more hands on deck, and now we have Steve here, so we really I don't need that extra hours from him at this point. For the certain expertise, I'll have to get somebody. I don't know if it'll be the one contractor we always had or not. It's hard to say because I don't always know what you guys are gonna want until the last minute.
Is that the software, is that going to be ours, or is that cloud-based or public domain, or what's?
Which software?
Is that
This is contract services.
Or the $5,000 reduction because of the software you found?
Yeah, so basically what it is, it's a service from the federal government.
So it's a service that they provide?
So they will scan our network and scan our websites, send us a report, and then the report is ours and everything on their side gets wiped clean. So it's not like a cloud service or anything.
And then they monitor that, or we would have to do it again next year, presumably?
They do monthly scans on our firewall, monthly scans on our websites, and then as soon as they're available, they'll come in here inside our network and do a penetration test, a vulnerability scan to see if our workstations are vulnerable to security threats, our servers, stuff like that.
Is there something that we should or can be doing in the meantime? Because when you say when they're available, they come in, you know, that is appropriately vague with the federal government.
An assessment last year, though, and we have the recommendations from that.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're going to be sufficiently up to speed so that if they don't show up for 6 months, that we still can march forward or have some control.
Yeah, so general security practice is to do like an internal vulnerability scan once a year maximum. Okay. So it's not, there's no rush on it. It can be done anytime in 2022.
Tom?
This being I guess, a federal grant/program, right? Sounds like. Is there a carrot and stick approach to this, where by accepting this money, we are now going to be beaten over the head with a stick, or not?
Not what I read.
Yeah, not what.
Okay.
No. It's a service that we both agree to.
It was in Korean.
Yeah.
We love to distress Washington.
Well, unfunded mandates, this one's maybe partial.
This is the reverse of an unfunded mandate. Corey?
So in the write-up, Andy, there's a reference to the IT audit from 2021. It wasn't in what we were provided, and I don't see it on the town's website. I don't think I see it anyway.
So it was in my
Probably
packet
not.
for the subcommittee.
No, okay, fair enough. That seems
It
reasonable.
was
Now the
provided
light's
to the
going off.
subcommittee, Corey, but until the town manager decides what could be put out there for the public, we
Totally reasonable.
did not.
Yeah, I just want, before we finish, we can approve lines, but I want to have a global discussion about this budget at the end, Rob. I mean, we're individually doing these approvals.
Makes sense.
You sure?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to vote the bottom line. We're not just going to do the individual, right, as well.
Okay.
I mean,
So I'll entertain a motion to change line 55058 to $8,000.
I had already moved that. I don't know if anyone seconded it.
Second.
well, maybe I have to take that back.
Do you want to, that's fine, second for discussion?
Yeah. I guess I'd like to, there's a lot going on in this budget. And we've talked for years about, the need and we can, rob Peter to pay Paul, but we're asking for a lot this year. So I'd like to hear what came of the audit globally and why we're attacking it all this year.
Oh, we're not.
Huh?
We're not attacking it all this year.
Well, fair enough, but we're attacking a pretty big number. And then what is the plan? Like, did the audit talk about, like, coming up with a budget, capital budget every year? Like, what does that look like going out 5 years? Are we just tackling a big piece this year and then it's gonna settle down? Like, what's going on?
Okay, we talk about it being big, and I want to go back and say, my budget this year is lower than it's been. And the reason why it looks big to you is
We're elevating it.
Well, we added a person, so we do know that. We knew that going on. We knew that this year we had to refresh the servers, which is around $50,000, and will come up again in 5 to 7 years.
Right.
And we had an unexpected expense of $12,000 worth of software that we need to make Munis work correctly. And you would take that number off my last year's budget, those 3 items, this year's was lower. So it just looks, the front end looks, but that's mostly because of the servers.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of
which you need to upgrade. You need to update them every 5 to 7 years.
Right.
And we have in the past tried to push that out a couple extra years, and a few times we have paid dearly for that.
So we're talking about that budget, you're talking about the 195 network supplies, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's a one-time in 5 years, and I talked about, should there be a fund that we put some money into every year for that or whatever, but I was told that it'd be a lot of bother for what's actually a small thing on the capital expense world.
Okay.
Well, getting right to the question I was going to ask. I mean, if it's like paving roads, if you know they're going to go bad in 5 years or 10 years or whatever, should we be putting some kind of reserve fund aside to work up to this so it's not such a big hit every 5 years if we know that that's the life that we need to be doing this for?
So just to comment on that real quick, part of the challenge of creating a reserve account to tap into is that our form of government really only allows us to create capital reserve funds, which means you're taking a fund like this and then going to town meeting and asking them to approve it via a warrant article. It doesn't really lend itself to that, so that's what makes it tough. I mean, if you were talking about a townwide revaluation fund that you were putting in $200,000 a year for 3 years, that might be a little different. But that's where it gets clunky, because then you're bringing minutia basically up to the town meeting level.
Fair enough.
So basically, that 52.8 is not going to be there next year, the full server.
I mean, there'll be some other upgrades to the network stuff, but they won't be anywhere near the scale of $52,000.
So it's sort of like the paving budget. You rip the Band-Aid off 1 year, and then it's fine.
Every 5 years you rip the Band-Aid off.
Until a few more years go by.
For the servers.
That's fine.
So what does do we have capital budgets that sort of tell us what we should spend every year, what we plan for the next 5 years, and then in that 5th year, we've got a $50,000 to $60,000 spend on servers again? Like, what are we
Not
projecting?
really. I mean, every time I've gone to do a CIP, they always say, well, you're really going to be at the bottom of the bucket. You're not a big deal there.
Right.
So we haven't done that.
Yeah. I mean, I would think capital budgeting, it's a super important area, right? I mean, we've talked about it for years, and I think it's good that we're stepping up and, refreshing our servers and doing some other things around security, but it would be nice to know what we should anticipate for years 4 through 2 through 4, and we know that 5 looks kind of ugly, but what do those other years kind of look like?
We have been seeing those kind of years. They've been pretty stable. PCs got a little weird this year because the capital costs went up by 35 to 40%, and we dedicated that money that we were going to do for that to taking care of the issue whether we needed some new server software to maintain Munis correctly. And so next year, we're going to be a little behind on refreshing our PCs, and they're still going to be expensive, so we're going to try to keep it at the right level, but I don't want it to stay on somebody's desk until it's so slow that they can punch out and come back 3 hours later and it's still booting up.
So there was a reference to
on fire.
$350 a piece. Is that right? How much? Where there's a reference to $350
That's the individual computers.
What, sorry, Anna?
For the individual, the 20 new computers,
They're $350 a piece?
No.
But
They're not 350 apiece. Where do we have?
I'm probably just.
That looks like licenses for
Is it
software.
just licenses?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Microsoft Office
Right,
license.
that's Office.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
So is it fair to say, so this is an in-house document, this audit? It's fair to say that you and Russ are discussing this
Oh,
long,
we've
you know,
been
the
through
audit?
we've been
and-
through the whole audit a couple of times, I think.
Right, yeah.
Well, I think to Corey's point, so the conclusion is this going to be the new, the 52,000 notwithstanding, you know, where are we, you know, going? Is the line like this? Is it like this?
Okay, so the
You know?
only thing that's different here, that maybe from the audit, is that $7,100 a year, which is double that this year, for the aerosol insight.
That's because of stock setup, right? That's why it's.
Yeah, and that was something that was specifically, not that product, but that kind of intelligence was specified by the audit that we did. In general, they were quite happy with almost everything we were doing.
Okay. Because if you take that and the server analysis out, that's on around $60,000. So then you're still significantly more than the past, which again, we've been bugging you for years to raise your
We
budget.
have another person, so take another 40 off of that, and now you're below.
Just trying to get an idea where we're going.
Yeah, I think we've been stable for a while. It's just every
Yes, you
5
have.
years is this issue.
Got it.
There's an ask out there, but it's not by me.
You computer weenies happy with this?
The server's 53 and the Aristotle Insight's 14.2, so you're really talking about almost 68,000 of the delta year over year are those two things.
I'm also assuming that it's hard to predict the cost of a server 5 years from now.
I'm not talking about more 5 years from now. I think we were.
Well, I know, but I'm
are
talking
there?
about
The annual.
more expenses.
Because we've been
Computers is probably inherently difficult.
It's not so much capital cost of things, it's the maintenance costs and the contract services that sometimes get us. And I'm just, you know, for the committee, articulating possibilities.
So the prices on these that I've gotten for quotes on the servers, I had specified 5-year 24/7 support. Because we didn't have that in the past, and it took a while to resolve. The last big crash that happened took a while to resolve because we didn't have HP or Dell or somebody ready to pop right in and talk to us. We had to wait till it was our turn.
Right.
Which was 3 days.
Any further questions, Corey?
On the internet services, Andy, where we talked.
Well, why don't we vote on the contract services real quick?
Oh, okay.
So you can continue now. So all those in favor of line 55058 being reduced to $8,000, moved and seconded, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Sorry, Corey.
Before.
No, I can wait till we get to it. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, we have a couple other lines to go through. 55088, $184. That's music licensing. I don't think that's in the original book.
Okay.
Do we have to approve that, or can we just keep going?
It's in here.
Okay.
It's in the budget.
Oh, okay. 55091. Education and training, 3,000.
Yep. That's in there.
Okay. Am I looking at the wrong one?
Yeah, 55159,
55159, sorry. IT.
Internet.
Yes. So internet services, the other big one. And that's the one that is changed. Nancy?
That's the one that is actually staying.
It's staying at 34,124.
25, yeah.
No, 25,593.
Yeah. So this morning we found out that my note says that that was an incorrect number and the correct one was 34,124, and now we're taking that back.
Okay.
And we're saying that 25,593 is the correct number.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah,
Is that?
because it's allocated to water sewer.
Right.
Yes.
The delta, the 9,000 delta, 12% each side. Yeah. So the 34 is the total.
That's correct.
Minus the 25% from the others. Got it.
So the explanation note almost doesn't belong there because it doesn't reference the number that's printed.
Right.
Right.
It's more just a reference.
Yeah.
Great, well, thanks for getting
Yes.
the bottom of that.
Sorry, yeah, full circle there.
Let's see. Do we need more illumination on network supplies by subcommittee, or Corey had some questions, I think?
My
Hold on.
question was on internet services, but I don't have, I'm good.
Ton?
Sorry, I was multitasking. On that line item, 55159, I did actually have a question about that even before we got to it. I assume it's what it sounds like, internet services, meaning like access to the internet. It's like our equivalent of us paying Comcast to have broadband access. Or does it include other subscriptions in addition to DocuSign? Because it's just kind of funny that
There are
DocuSign
several
is in it.
subscriptions. There's
So the biggest one on there is Google Workspace,
Yeah.
which is our email servers and all that.
Okay.
And recent developments mean that everybody who works here has to have an email address.
Okay, so it does include other subscriptions.
Quite a lot, and I think we should break it down, but
Municode, Zoom,
yeah,
the time clock system,
yeah. There's a lot of things in there.
remote access.
Okay, there's a memo here I hadn't
Yeah,
seen before.
and my Exeter app is being discontinued because people just didn't use it.
Yeah.
But in place of that, there's an SMS messaging, so that if a report is made via text to the town, it can be responded to.
Got it. I'm seeing part of the narrative that I haven't seen yet.
Okay.
So,
And the DocuSign is in here also because it was determined that it really hadn't been used through COVID as much as anticipated, but it was kind of hard to train during COVID too. So there's going to be an effort to train some more on the DocuSign, and then we'll decide next year if that's worth eliminating or keeping.
Got it.
Okay. That was the idea behind DocuSign.
Yeah, it seems like with HR's effort to, get things signed electronically, like that would
Yeah.
seem like
It was
a
Melissa
good
who said
product.
that she
but-
really wants to do a training, more of a training approach to that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions in, I guess at this point, any part of the budget? Right, Andy? Do you have any other things to say, Anna?
whatever you want.
Excuse me. There
Sure.
was a note for software agreement to add 9,080.
Sorry?
1,080.
Oh, I'm sorry. For that line to be 9,080.
Right.
From 8,000.
It was 8,900, it's 9,080.
And that was for the Meraki licenses.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So what happened there?
55136.
I forgot to put the licenses in for the,
55270.
yeah, I forgot to put the licenses in for the fiber interconnect switches.
It's 96.
9,080.
Right. It's on our sheet,
908, though.
8,000, but we're recommending $9,080 because we needed to add 1,000
Licenses for switches.
for switches.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Any further discussions about that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not.
I'll entertain a motion to adjust the budget for 55270 software agreement to $9,080.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Signify, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
908.
Okay. Anything else, Anna?
57003, computers. And this is the increased capital cost that Andy was referencing. This is 20,000.
And that's
Because
just
the prices are they're up 30 to 35%
They're not going to
higher.
go down in a hurry.
Yeah.
Looks like the chip shortages are going to be with us for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
It's gonna, the only thing that they want to make it for is toys and cell phones because that's where the high profit margins are. Computers and cars are not going to get chips as fast for a while.
Okay,
Did we cover everything?
could we get a new benefits total for IT, Doreen?
Sure, the new benefits total is $60,577.
Thank you. Anything else, subcommittee, or Andy or Steve, you'd like to add?
I have a question, maybe at the end.
I think we're at the end.
Okay. Andy, I wanted to ask, the police and fire have a new system, and you consult to the departments for their personal computers and so forth. How's that working? There's a different system you're not involved in, but you're also still involved in the department's.
Okay, it has its challenges, but it's not the end of the world. It's a little crazy on, like, we started archiving email this year, but the PD wants out, which is good because I managed to lower the budget number because theirs aren't going to be in there. But now I'm going in with Aristotle Insight, and I won't know until I get it whether they'll say they want to be in or out. They better be in because it's an important thing, but it's sort of their own call. I spend time working with their people. Sometimes they didn't understand how to put our systems management and our antivirus on the machines over there, which I have no control over, but I would like that stuff to be on there because I can't get accurate inventory without systems management, and I can't be confident without the antivirus, even though they may use
So there's no reason in terms of liability, confidentiality, or anything like that, why they can't be using these systems, is that?
Well, they had issues with the ability, with our system that would, it literally saved every email that comes in, and they have certain regulatory things that they had to meet, so they couldn't take every one raw and store it forever, which everyone else in this town, their email is now permanently archived. And it's just another way of making things, more transparent to the whole world, and it doesn't always work out in law enforcement. You think it would, but it doesn't, because they have to protect people who aren't necessarily guilty of something.
I would just like to add, just to recognize the wonderful work that Andy and Bob and now Steve have done in this department. I think last year we expressed from our non-IT backgrounds concerns about vulnerabilities that we couldn't even truly articulate, and also redundancy, staff redundancy, because it was at that time only 2 people. And I feel like a lot of those concerns have been addressed through this audit, through adding Steve to your staff, through some of these hardware and software upgrades. So I just feel really good about what we gathered during our subcommittee meetings with you. And I know I'm not the only one, because the audit, I will share from this currently confidential audit, they did call out Andy and Bob's work and recognize them in the audit as well, that they're loyal and experienced and knowledgeable.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Anna, for that. Doreen, the updated IT total.
Okay, the new updated total for IT is $386,748. And again, that is 386,748.
So moved.
Is that this minus 5,000?
Second.
No? Plus plus 1,800, yeah, okay.
Okay,
I would just add that, to the extent that we can understand what our IT budgets are going to look like, for the next 3 or 4 years, that would be nice to see. Support it all, but it would, just seems like we could see.
Corey, I think I know where you're going with this, and so my hope is.
I hope so.
Well, I'm trying to make sure I do. Because this audit just happened, they were trying to prioritize
for sure.
immediate needs. And then for next year's budget, I think we're going to have a better game plan approach. There were 12 recommendations. So they took
I think there's 3 in this, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but they were maybe the bigger and more expensive ones because
But they needed to
be done.
happen. So, this
Totally
was
get that.
just got the audit in, get it in the budget, get the numbers in, you just saved us $5,000 on one of them. So I think there'll be more clarity for next year, and I was gonna say, I apologize, I don't know why I keep saying that, but it literally is out of their hands at this point to be any more specific.
Thank you. So Russ, you're pretty confident based on your read of the audit that there's no like significant surprises? This will be a sort of phased in thing and it'll improve the department?
Couldn't have said it better. I mean, I think that's exactly right. You see things in here that are related to the audit already, and Steve came up with the instrument from the Homeland Security, so that, I mean, I think we're on our way to something, we're already working on something good and on our way to something better, so I think it's a good roadmap.
Excellent. Any other comments before we vote? All those in favor of an IT budget of $386,748 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Andy and Steve.
So I would like to say that next year, Steve will be leading our budget presentation in preparation.
So you're really out of here, huh? You're not on the Andy Kohler 6-year plan?
No, sometime in 2023. I mean, I feel tired and old some days now. We all probably do. And if I didn't have to change my doctor, I'd probably go retire tomorrow.
There we go.
See, he hasn't let me try to talk him out of it yet. I mean, that's,
yeah, right.
He's telling you before he's telling,
That's right.
Andy's been our MacGyver for how long?
Yeah.
So.
He's literally.
Steve's very capable, very capable.
Oh, no, I'm not doubting that in the least. We got to have a good conversation.
Steve, at least you have a
At our
year to
subcommittee.
prepare instead of like a week.
Yeah.
That's true. You got to go in front of these.
I'll share quickly, so my introduction to Steve and his team at his former firm was, we were looking at bringing them on to be our provider, and on like a Friday, our email server went down. And these guys spent the entire weekend building us back up so that on a Monday morning we were ready to go. So, yeah, we took a leap of faith and these guys really stepped up. So I think we are in good hands. So it's good.
It's like Allstate, the good hands.
Yeah.
You're all set, right?
So I will take very little credit for this. I will give all the credit to Nancy and Anna that we are 2 hours ahead of schedule here. So we can either blast out finance here in the next little bit and then have lunch. And again, hopefully people would stay so we can sort of socialize a little bit. Or we can break for lunch right now. It is straight up noon. So preference is yours.
Yeah.
Blast it out?
Hold on.
Really? Well, Nancy's having issues over there.
I can go.
Okay, thank you.
What's that?
I have, I'm multitasking today. I apologize, but I have things going on across the street, so Laura's gonna leave and help the person that's trying to help finance.
I mean, do you want to break? Would that be easier
No,
for
if
you?
we can get through it, let's do it.
So Laura, since you probably won't be back, thank you again. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
For all of your help. You're welcome.
Okay, let's, we have finance and treasurer, and that's pretty much it.
Blast off.
Okay, let's see, so finance, page 7. Gosh, just bear with me because my brain is needs fuel. Contract services, 55058. Let me get there, 55058. Contract services, just wanted to let people, that increased by 5,000 due to a 2-year evaluation. That happens every 2 years.
Biennial GASB update.
Yes, GASB, that's it.
Yeah.
55091, there's a $1,200, almost $1,300 increase, but that there's a PACE training for an upgrade in Munis. 55270 software agreement, there's an increase because of the Munis software agreement, there's a 6.3 increase per year. And then Travel reimbursement, again, 55308, there's an increase there of $1,100 because of PACE training for 3 employees. Those were some increases that we just wanted to touch on, but otherwise we recommend her budget as proposed as is.
Bob.
Before Court.
On the software agreement, so the 6746 isn't all Munis. There's other software increases in there as well.
No, it is all Munis. The prior year has 2775, and that should have been allocated more. So it is, when I did when I dug in, it is only a 5% increase year over year on the entire contract. It's just the allocation pieces, because we still do allocate some pieces to water and sewer, but we were budgeting for utility billing, and that's now going to be a different system.
So we just have more money allocated to the line, so it looks like 32.5, but it's really...
It's really a 5% increase overall,
Yeah.
correct.
And then, are we adding more modules or anything, or is that really the contract says we will go up 6.3% in year X?
No, we haven't added more modules. The only thing that's, we had it last year too, is the PACE training, but that's up in the education line.
So this is really just follows the contract?
Yes, it does.
So I understand we paid for the water and sewer modules, but we're not going to be using those under Munis, so
No, well, here's the other thing. My year-to-date looks high. Originally, we did pay for it, but then we got a refund, and that refund was given to water sewer, and I'm bringing it back into my fund because they didn't actually pay for it.
Sure.
Yeah, so that will be lowered by about $3,500, I believe.
So the 6746 increase is due to Munis without water and sewer. So it would have been higher if water and sewer was actually on there.
It might, yes. Yeah.
So you're sure that that's true? You've talked to the Munis folks, and they have actually taken that off, because they...
I have it laid out. I have a schedule if anybody would want to see it. It's detailed by module, what it was last year, this year, and it's a 5% increase overall, but, yeah.
When we bought this a few years ago, did we know the increase was going to be... Is this a schedule of increases, or is this...
It's about 5% a year, and that's what it is. The only reason it looks higher than that is because in the prior year, we budgeted $27.75, and I'm bringing more costs into the general fund this year. We do still share some allocation modules with water and sewer, but I had to temper it a little bit better to fit that general fund was going to use more of Munis now.
Have they given us any idea of, is this, again, sort of an annual thing that they just send us a bill for the increase, or is there a schedule?
Well, it's 5% a year, and it's been meeting that for the past...
It has?
Yes, it has.
Okay. They haven't thrown us any other surprises?
Well, yes and no.
Other than the basics. Any specific questions for the subcommittee or Doreen? New benefits total, please.
The new benefits total for finance is $127,350.
Okay.
And the grand total for finance is $358,982, or $358,982.
So moved.
Second.
I guess I do have a question, Bob. No, that's right.
That's fine.
Fine.
Yeah, second for discussion.
Yep. Are you guys eyeing any like future year, software changes or things you'd like to bring into the department, or integrations between departments that we should, know about on the horizon, or?
Sure, we are, and it's in Munis. There's a large upgrade that's happening next year. We booked it this year, but they're about a year out for us. We're on a schedule. So that's why Andy has some more costs, but it's not all us, so I don't want to say that's why he has 52,000 in servers. It's planned maintenance, but it did bump his budget up a little bit. And I think he's using most of the funds in this year anyway that he didn't spend. So there's a major upgrade coming, and that's why we have PACE training plans in both HR and finance so that everybody can get up to speed, because the look is going to be different and everybody's going to need training.
Is that next year?
That is next August right now, unless they bump us up.
So we've had this software now, this is our 4th year?
Yes, I believe so. 2017 it went in.
What's the general lifespan of financial software in your experience? Like, how long did we have MuniSmart?
Oh, that one we had quite a while. I think we had that about 10 years. We would have still been with MuniSmart had they not decided
supporting it.
Yeah, that's correct. I don't see that happening here. It is a huge corporation, Tyler, and they have other modules, I guess, or other product lines, should they stop it? I don't think they will, because the state of Massachusetts and the state of New York have this almost, statewide. So it's a big product that is used by many municipalities, and New Hampshire's starting to come on board now. So I don't see that ending anytime soon.
Okay. Next one.
Is it cloud-based? I forget.
Oh, it can be cloud-based, but it's too expensive for us right now to do that, so we're still hosting it internally.
Okay, the budget of $358,982 has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Wow. One more.
You want to go through treasurer, or is that a sort of in the ether?
Really no change. Oh, I'm sorry, were you talking to Nancy?
No,
Well,
I'm
just
talking to
everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's no change in this budget. It's as it has been. I think there was a question somewhere along the line about a deputy treasurer and whether we could actually get one, and it led to a conversation about how this position is an elected position, and as per our form of government, it's probably a position we would want to look at appointing at some point instead of having it just elected. Shouldn't say just elected, but it's a significant position within the organization because it's responsible for disbursement and cash management.
Yeah.
And if you think about the millions of dollars we
And every year we take a deep breath in the
maintain.
subcommittee, because when you're elected, there's no pre-qualifications to run for this position. And it's a lot. Literally, it is what it is. I don't know how we might change that, but it's a little scary.
Yeah. Have to be a resident.
I mean, Penny really does a great job, but
Sue Penny, who's our current treasurer, we're fortunate to have her. She does a really good job for the town, and it's somebody that, like I said, if the mode of appointment went to the select board and town manager, I think we would lean toward appointing her and have her in place and not have to worry about any kind of change.
So then why is it an elected position? Can you speak to that?
Because in the RSAs, it is actually set up to be an elected position, and in order to change that, you have to go and get a town vote to have it changed to an appointed position.
So it can be done. There is a mechanism for changing.
Right, and towns have done it. I mean, Northampton went through this process a few years back, and it's been done. So that would be the argument to make.
And that would be decided initially by the town manager and the select board and then brought before the town?
Yeah, as a warrant article.
Okay, good to know.
which is what the subcommittee, if we can go down that path, would recommend.
Sounds like it.
I'm looking at our chair of our select board at the same time.
And what's the argument, the other side, why wouldn't a town do that?
I'm not sure what argument there would be other than to say people's preference would be to have it an elected office. I mean, I can't really think of a strong argument not to have it as an appointed position. It's really not part of, it's not there wouldn't be a check and balance argument.
Well, right, so it's not a public transparency agreement, argument or anything like that, or, okay.
I mean, the treasurer functions under statutes and has to do things on a statutory basis, and so that work plan and their responsibilities are really set out by law.
Okay.
So whether that position's elected or appointed, it doesn't really change the fundamental nature. It's just, again, having it appointed would allow us to recruit and sort of queue up more a sustainable line of treasurers if need be, and that sort of thing. So and it would also allow us to think about it in terms of organizationally differently than it is now. Like it could be a hybrid position with another position.
Interesting.
You could look at organizing your financial structure differently if it were appointed.
So I could put my name on the ballot as treasurer with really no qualifications.
Sure.
And if people checked my name off and I was elected, I'd have to learn very quickly how to become a treasurer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah.
That's the example.
And one of the main functions is monthly reconciliations and making sure that those get done. And I know Sue gets support internally from the finance department in doing that to help her because of the breadth of what we deal with. But that's a very important function that they fulfill. And we meet monthly and go through our cash management reports and our cash on hand reports, and those are all the product of those monthly reconciliations, which are pretty involved.
How many funds does she have to rec?
Oh my gosh, we have probably
20
funds, but we have a lot of escrow accounts too, probably like 50 or more of those, and they keep adding up, so there's a lot to do there. Yeah. Speaking of elected, I just want to put in a plug really quick while we're all here. Donna Leroy has done a wonderful job as trustee of trust funds. She's the treasurer for that, and she's not going to run again, so that spot's going to be open. If anybody knows anybody with a finance, accounting, bookkeeping background, please let us know.
Okay.
That's a hard spot to fill.
Treasurer budget has not been moved or seconded. Does anyone want to move the $97.92?
$9,792.
Second.
Other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, excellent work, everyone. I, as the chair, and I think the committee shares my enthusiasm for thanking Nancy and Anna for their
Absolutely.
Okay, don't get too excited. I have one question to ask the chair. You wanted to have a conversation about opera funds and where they might be applicable. Do you want to wait until CIP for that? Because I think we're still waiting for some information. Okay.
Yeah, I also like to thank Doreen and Laura for the work on the budget, just the layout, and Russ as well. Obviously, he's plays a part in this.
He does. And Pam.
Putting the subcommittee templates together, appreciate it. And Joanna Bartel, our erstwhile minutes taker, thank you so much for bearing with us.
Pam today has been helping keep us on schedule.
You're welcome for keeping this to 4 hours as opposed to 8 hours.
And I'd like to thank my family and God
Always. Just a slice.
Yeah.
Death by 10,000 cuts. So, we're not only breaking for lunch, but we're adjourning until next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, one more thing, sorry. And it reminded me of a little side note. We wanted to know the last time the select board had a raise in their thing, just to keep that out there, that the select board and
We
the town
being
manager.
your subcommittee?
Yes.
Yeah. In light of last week's meeting, part of it is long-term
overall.
backward and forward.
Well, if you want to revisit their
planting the
budget.
seed
that
for
would
We
be
just
fine
want
with
to
me.
put a plug out there for this, maybe consider it next year.
Okay.
It's not our purview.
So lunch is available out here, sandwiches that you ordered. We are meeting Wednesday on the 27th.
And I will not be here.
And Corey will be presenting all by himself, because 2 of his committee members
Thank you, everyone. Wow, it's really.
gotten off the committee.
Off the committee.
But he will be presenting the Public Works general budget.
Yeah, unfortunately, I will not be here. So I hope you've all enjoyed my presence today. I will be back, yeah.
We have.
For the warning.
I do like public works.
If you have any questions about the budget, feel free to.
Yeah, Public Works is important, but I'm going to be out of town.
can send out email.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. Meeting is officially adjourned until next Wednesday, and hopefully you'll all stay for lunch.
Wow. Woo. Nice.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.